and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before. So can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look at my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
And welcome into a Friday edition of Running Point. DJ Yoakley with you, covering for Ron Potesta on this side of the table. And if you've been on YSN at any point this week, you know this was Invasion Week. Just like the NWO taking over WCW, just like DX over WWF. Ladies and gentlemen, the invasion continues today. On that side of the table, it is Jeff Brazil and Brian Higgins, the hosts of Full Court Press. They are right here in studio, live in studio. The firefighters are on call here. We prepped them. They know who you are. So we are ready to go, boys. Welcome to East Palestine once again.
Yeah, thanks for having us. You know, I want to start by saying about 2 months ago, we came on the Potesta show. We told them at that point that we'd be taking over. I mean, it was a given. It took us 3 episodes, but, you know, we're here now.
I actually thought we'd have to work a little harder, but 3 episodes
Wasn't
we're in,
difficult.
we'll take it over.
I mean, we talked about it before we went on the air. There's no punches pulled. I mean, you guys you tell us what you're going to do, and you do it, and here we are, taking over Running Point. This is your off week, so 3 weeks in, like you said. What has been the biggest challenge for you guys in doing your show, in learning how to change kind of careers like at the drop of a hat?
I think just dealing with the fans. I mean, we can't go anywhere without people wanting pictures. And, you know, before people used to throw shit at me when I, you know, see them at the mall. But now it's just everywhere we go. I think it's just a paparazzi and, you know, dealing with that every day.
How many autographs on average are you signing a day now?
Thousands. They're being sold on eBay.
Check it out right now.
In all honesty, I mean, we didn't know what we were getting into.
Right.
You know, we had no experience in this, and, you know, we knew we had fun talking and hanging out and stuff, and that's what we wanted to bring to FCP, and I think we're doing that, and we're learning every episode. I think we're a little cleaner already now than we were the first episode, but we're just trying to get people then in there to talk and, you know, stuff that we're interested in. Hopefully they'll follow along. That's what we wanted. We wanted it to be like it's in the basement, and that's what we're doing.
And it is. It's fun. And that's your basement?
Yes, that's my basement.
That's awesome. Love the jerseys all around framed
Yeah,
up.
autographed jerseys all around the
Are they
office.
all? They're autographed?
Yeah, all
Oh, wow.
autographed. You know, one of my former players said he'd go out with us after some games, and he said, all you guys need to do is just act like you do after games.
Right.
And you'll be fine. And that's what we do. I mean, we're true. We're blunt. We're honest. We've always been that way. We were that way with the newspapers, with our players, with our parents. And, you know, some people appreciate that, others don't.
Yeah, it's funny. YSN is built on not being the kind of guys you necessarily want to take to in your living room in the 6 o'clock sports reporters, but we're the guys you want to go out and have a beer with. And you guys have embraced that wholeheartedly, literally to the point where you're drinking beers every
That's
episode.
right. I was a little concerned because it is noon. You know, we usually tape at night, so when we're drinking, what I did is I got a little bit lower alcohol content beer. This is only 4.8.
But he brought like 12 of them.
But there's actually 8, and this is actually called 8 Days a Week. It's from Southern Tier, and the reason I picked that is, you know, we talk about hockey all the time, going to hockey tournaments, and this is actually Southern Tier's out of Lakewood, New York. And right next to Lakewood is Jamestown, and Jamestown has a real cool arena. Lucille Ball's from Jamestown.
Really?
Roger Goodell's from Jamestown.
Oh, you didn't have to
so
bring that one up.
it's a little New York town, but it's got a cool history, and they serve Southern Tier like crazy. So me and all my hockey dads, we would drink Southern Tier, and the cool thing about this one, like I said, is it's a little lower alcohol content. So if it's noon and you have a 3-hour show, it's probably a good one to pick. And this is a little shout out to all the hockey dads that sit in the lobby and drink beer before and after the kids.
Soccer moms, hockey dads, right? That's how it
That's
goes. So, I mean, what inspired you to start promoting the? Obviously you're a beer drinker,
Yeah.
but what to promote all these things? What really inspired you to get to that next level and start saying, hey, I'm gonna kind of point the finger at these guys?
You know what? It's just what I drink. It's
Yeah.
the same thing as what we talk about in the basement. It's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm too old to drink 40 Busch Lights. You know what I mean?
Bush latte.
I don't drink beer to drink beer. I drink beer because I like the taste.
Yeah.
So it's almost like this beer tastes well, I'm going to buy it. So, like, I always look out for craft beers, new things, and, the ones that I drink are the ones I drink anyway. So that's why I do it.
Speaking of, we
I'm gonna
had
crack
the
this open, by the way.
absolutely,
and I got my
absolutely.
real cool Yeti little cooler,
That is
container.
sweet. So what is it? You just put that in there and then put it on top?
Keeps it cold forever. And the thing that's crazy about this is, like, if you're on the beach, your
Yeah.
beer will be cold at the end, and it's heavy, so you never know when you're done.
Yep.
So you're always like tipping, and like, oh, I gotta get another one.
So we took your advice and we went to Birdfish yesterday.
I
We
know.
had
I was jealous.
had our first ever. Man, that is slick. That is. Look at that,
Look at that.
America,
We're ready to
right
go.
there in a
We're
cup.
ready to go.
So we went to Birdfish. We had our first pop-up power hour. Every day we do our show from 3 to 4, and man, I'll tell you what, the hospitality at Birdfish,
Yeah.
unbelievable. But
They're
I'm not like a huge beer drinker. Like pop, that's my thing, and tea and stuff like that. But I'll tell you what, I got a mango OG.
That's brand new too, right? Then
And
they
it-
just yeah.
And it was unbelievable. Like it was like I had a few too many, and then we joined a spelling bee, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But it was so good, and it almost like it tastes like beer. I mean, you can't fight that, but
Right.
it's so flavorful.
Yeah,
You
they
know what I
also
mean?
they also just came out with a new key lime one.
Yes,
Did they have that
home
there?
slice.
Yeah, did you try that?
I didn't try that.
That's my next one. I want to try that next.
I was told that it's awesome. Like,
Cool.
and it tastes not like a Bud Lime or anything like
Right.
that, but they said it's similar too. So
Yeah.
Very
I
interesting.
like a little flavor. I don't want it to be a dessert necessarily. You know what I mean? I
That's
still want
me.
to taste the beer. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And a lot of people, and like even you see like Natty Light's got like lemonade now, and it's like
Apple.
It's crazy how
Yeah.
many different flavors you can get in beer now.
Yeah.
I still like to taste the beer, but I just want that hint of flavor.
See, I'm the other way. I want the other stuff. It's crazy when it comes down to it. I want. Is that your volume?
That's your volume, brother.
Oh shit.
I was like, how are we getting feedback already? So when Jeff, we talked a little bit about this before. The buzz right now is, first off, are the kids going back to school?
Right.
Should we be putting so much heavy emphasis on football alone? That's
No.
everybody looks at that. Why is there? Obviously, it's a hotbed here for football.
Right.
But there's other sports involved. Do you feel like the other sports are getting slighted in all
Well,
this?
in general, I don't think we should put any impact on sports.
Yeah.
I think we should make decisions based on health and science. I'd hate to see kids miss their senior year of sports. Kids have worked hard. I think about last year. Boy, it would have been brutal for Zach not to play his senior year. With that said,
He would
though,
have only had 2,000 points instead of 300.
with that said, I mean, geez, oh man, we're dealing with a pandemic right now. I don't want to see kids get sick. There's more important things than sports.
Yeah.
Football, there's more important things than football. So we'll see. But, I know schools are coming out with their plans right now. I teach out at Champion. We came out with a plan. And, I know the OHSAA's saying they're going to go through with everything. I don't know if that's going to happen. So we'll wait and see.
Do you feel, I mean, we've said it on our show before, do you feel like the OHSAA is kind of blocking everything right now,
I do.
on somebody making a move?
Well, I think they're leaving it up to individual school districts a little bit,
Yeah.
too. And you know what? Superintendent's got enough to deal with right now.
Yeah.
They don't need to be dealing with sports. It would be nice if they just made a decision one way or another to OHSAA, and then the superintendents can just follow the rules and go with it. And my feelings right now, I think, I hate to say it, I think we should be remote, only because it's a race to one. God forbid a kid gets sick and dies, or a teacher. Out of Champion, we had a teacher lose her husband. And on top of that, he had passed. But
His parents,
His
too.
parents died, and a brother, I believe, or a brother-in-law. I mean, 4 people in the family. And it was national news. I just think there's bigger, more important things than football or basketball
Any
or
sport.
whatever. Yeah,
When you
whatever
look at
it is.
it. I think it's interesting because you have different aspects of this. Everybody has a different lens to look through, but
Yeah.
there's everybody they want to err on the side of caution,
Mm-hmm.
safety, and then they have the other side that goes, oh, by the way, I need to make sure that my wallet's filled. I need my job. I need this sport. My kid is going to get, lose a scholarship over this. As if they're I get it. Your kid or your world revolves around yourself. However, there are millions of us in this country that are all in the same boat. The majority of us.
Well, DJ, my family has not been greatly impacted by COVID in regards to somebody getting it or getting really sick. I think everybody would feel differently if they were directly impacted.
Well, it's the same as cancer in that regard, right?
Right. So until that happens, I don't know. I mean, you got people out there saying it's a hoax and no big deal. I don't know.
And I think also that if everybody was on board with the same plan, I think we could start opening things and do things a little bit better.
That's the problem.
Yes.
If you have 25% of the people not willing to wear a mask, or whether it's right or wrong, I'm not a scientist. I don't know what's right or wrong. But you're not willing to do it, then nobody's doing it, and now you're going to shut it all down for everybody else.
Well, you got Youngstown City came out; they're all remote, and then you got Boardman coming out; they're all going to school.
Right.
It would be nice if there was some common grounds.
My wife teaches at Salem, and you got the option. So kids can go remote, or they can go. I mean, it's just like.
But you have to. The one that I heard last night was if they choose remote, they have to do it for
a semester usually, or
9
weeks
or
at
whatever.
least.
So I mean, is that fair, or should you be able to have the option to? Because what happens if you decide to go start in
and
physical,
it doesn't work
and
for
it doesn't work for
right.
you, and you go the other way?
That's because of scheduling.
Okay.
As a teacher, I can understand that because let's say 10 kids decide they're going to come back.
Got it.
Where are we putting them? What classes? So that's because of scheduling. I can understand that. It's brutal out there, and I feel bad for the kids. I just wonder, so you're going to tell kids they can only come 2 days a week to school, but you're going to have a football game on a Friday night?
There it is.
I mean, how do you do that?
There it is.
I think most schools are prepping on being off at some point this year.
think?
Yeah, absolutely. Look at the colleges. They're changing sports schedules already, expecting for November, December, January to be pretty ugly.
Well, I mean, the thing was, I looked at ESPN report today says Wisconsin, even with just conference play, is going to lose $100 million just by losing a couple out of conference games. You look at that, when it starts to hit the wallet, I think people freak out a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel like if it was affecting you directly, not just from having COVID, but from having a business, you have your own thing, and Facebook has their thing right across. It says, "Be careful what you do with on COVID." I mean, does that affect your business, your side hustle?
Well, let me say this. I read an article one time that Steubenville Football High School brings in $1 million a year to their economy because that's why they schedule all those home games.
Yep.
Right.
Most people are like 5-5 or 6-4. Well, Steubenville, basically, they don't leave their place.
Right.
And it brings in $1 million a year to their economy. I mean, think about that. If they don't have football, that's going to kill them.
We talk about youth hockey all the time, and these little ranks all through Pittsburgh and stuff. They rely on the next 4 months.
Yep.
I mean, it carries them all. If they don't have that, they're shutting down. It's expensive to keep ice up.
Yeah.
But we've had, over the last couple of days, a couple of schools have come out and said, kids have tested positive, high schools, athletes, and they've shut down their sports. Louisville.
Yeah.
Didn't someone just come out the other day, another school also yesterday?
I
thought there was another local that came out, same thing as Louisville. What are you going to do? Even as a teacher, a kid tests positive, he's been in your room. Are they going to quarantine people? Are they going to shut down the school? It's going to be an interesting situation, to say the least.
Well, that's the nerve-wracking thing is even if they're sick, right? I saw a meme on social media the other day. It says, is there just such a thing of being sick anymore, or is everything COVID?
Well, DJ, think some kid walks in, you're the teacher,
and
some kid sits down, he starts coughing.
Oh, you're freaking out.
I mean, Ian, it's allergy season.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, you're freaking out.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations as we get to the YSN hotline here. It's one of those situations where you're nervous regarding everything.
Right.
Caller, you're on the running point with Brian Higgins and Jeff Brazil. Go ahead.
Hey, this is Brent from Hubbard.
Oh, Brent, boy. The first question.
He is real. We did not make up Brent from
I was starting to wonder. Brian, go ahead.
Hey, guys. I want to say, I really like listening. I guess it's a show or whatever. It's got to be tough, though, opening up a sports talk show with no sports going on.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you guys watched any baseball last night, how you guys feel about that fake crowd noise and cardboard cutout fans.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. I don't know really where you go with that. I think they're just experimenting. They're just throwing everything out there, see what sticks, and stay with it. Yeah. If people like it, they'll stay with it. If people complain enough, they'll get rid of it.
I don't see them making it through the season.
I don't care what they do. I don't care if they put cardboard
Baseball?
cutouts.
Yeah.
I don't care
Did
if they.
you guys watch any of the baseball last night?
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah,
I watched
a
the
little
game,
bit,
and
yeah, but-
crowd noise. I don't care about any of that. I'm just glad they're playing.
Right.
I'm glad I got to see some baseball.
Right. I didn't like the crowd noise myself. I don't know, Jeff. You probably watch a little more soccer than most of the best in it, but they're saying like that really makes a difference. People like the soccer crowd noise because I don't know. I think I would rather hear the intimate, the guys on the field.
Crack of the bat, stuff like that.
It's almost like an AAU basketball tournament. I just play the game. That's they don't need the extras.
Well, one thing they're doing is they're selling those pictures first.
Right.
You know
right.
what I mean? So they're trying to make some money.
Like
so
a revenue generation to worry about too.
And they're talking about if the baseball hits the dude, he gets they
Which
send
is
it to
sweet.
him. Yeah.
I'm a fan.
And then the other thing is you're trying to get some momentum. So whether
Yeah.
it's fake or not, you're trying to get those people a little hyped when they hear the crowd when you hit a homer or something like that. I don't know.
Let me say,
I'm just glad they're playing.
Brent grew up with us.
Brent?
He's real.
Yep.
We graduated all together. Brent coached with us for almost 20 years. I mean, he was there till almost the end.
Yep.
Brent, did you miss coaching?
Yeah, you know that. We talked about that. Yeah, it was. I really, the big thing for me was all the interaction with the kids. I really missed that. It was just tough. It got to the end there. I know when your boys got there, I really wish I could have been there for the end with you guys, but it just became so hard. When I couldn't manipulate my schedule anymore at the pharmacy to be able to get there, it was really tough to. Also, I felt like I was cheating the kids too. I was just showing up for games.
Yeah, you show up for games and you feel like you didn't see them all
Yeah,
week.
who's this guy yelling at me?
We would get Brent in the bar before every season, and we'd get him drunk, and he would commit to coaching.
He'd have to go home and tell his wife, I just signed the
My wife
contract.
would find out, and it'd be Nick real quick.
Hey, Brent, you coached, and you were also a parent of Corey played.
Yeah.
How was it sitting in the stands and watching him play versus coaching?
It was brutal. It really was. And I'm usually a pretty reserved guy, but there were times watching my son where I'd say something and I'd know immediately how I would react to that on the bench, to a parent saying something to their kid, and I couldn't help myself still. It's just a totally different atmosphere. It's very difficult to do, and yeah, I'm sure Rick hated me.
That's Rick Fox from Hubbard.
I'm sure he hated, having to listen to me, and I'm not proud of a lot of things I said. It's a very difficult thing to do. So you're going to have a rough time next year going and watching Zach play. And,
it's a different level, though. I mean, I think it's easier to
yeah.
accept at the college level versus the high school level. Brent coached with us, as I said, and he was always the even keel guy.
Yeah.
I'd be screaming and yelling.
He's
I'd turn
flat
around,
line.
and he'd be like,
Yep.
one of these. So he's not a guy that gets real emotional about things, but I know sitting in the stands, it had to be difficult.
Let me ask this question. We have so many coaches here at the table. Parents don't, and I don't want to point the finger at parents and say, listen, you don't see what goes on. Mm-hmm. But what we've learned through our Level Up series, when we mic up the coaches, when we go in the locker rooms, is they're so interested in what goes on because they don't see the relationship so much. They see the final product, right?
Right.
They see the spaghetti on the table. They don't see how it was made in the back. Do you guys feel that you're getting shortchanged a little bit whenever a parent comes to you without talking to you first or getting your side of the story, so to speak, whenever a kid is benched or?
Let me say this. First of all, I always say this in class, and I'll believe half of what they tell me if you believe half of what they tell you, because kids are kids, and one story gets exaggerated. Next thing you know is we hit a kid in the locker room or something crazy,
Right.
and that never happened. But we didn't have many problems.
I think, though, in that line, though, the parents that would approach us to have a conversation always were the easiest way to deal with it. It was always, when you would hear from this guy, and Jeff was so blunt that he would just cold call parents and say, hey, I heard from this kid that you said this and this, do you want to talk about it? And most of the time they would back down once you would give them that. But this guy actually drove to a couple people's front porches to have discussions about what they wrote on social
Yeah,
media.
you want to write shit about me on Yappy? Fine, but I'm going to show up at your house.
Yeah.
I'm not there to fight.
Yeah.
I'm there to say, hey, you have your chance to say it to me.
Miscommunication.
Right. And one guy, I'll tell you a quick story. So one guy wrote a bunch of shit about me on Yappy on a Sunday night, and I called him out. I went to practice. I knocked on his door, and then I went to practice. He denied it was him. By the time I got done with practice, it was all erased. And then the next day he showed up and he said, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. Okay. You know, and I don't care. Write about me. You know, some guy wrote some shit about me from Sebring. And what irritated me, he basically said I abused my son.
Yeah.
And he wrote it all on Facebook. Well, I called him at his office.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know his home phone number, but I knew he was
you
a pharmacist in
You can
Sebring.
complain about X's and O's. Don't say
Yeah.
you're hitting your kid or you're mentally abusing your
Right.
kid. You have no idea.
No.
You want to say I'm a bad coach? Shit, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But you want to say that I'm abusing kids? You're not in the locker room. You don't know our relationships.
So do you embrace, like, when somebody says we want to do a special on you, or I don't know if you've ever had one of those where they're following you around on special?
They asked to mic me up. So years ago, I think it was WKBN, used to mic
Yep.
coaches.
Yep.
And it was a big game against Wellsville. You can still find it. It's still on the air. And it was a big game against Wellsville. And I said, listen, here's what you can do. I'll let you do pregame, and I'll do the first half. But at halftime, that's got to come off because I know it's going to be a tight game. And
Yep.
you know, and honestly, we're not big swearers or anything. There's nothing like that. It's nothing that I'm embarrassed about or I think that, you know, someone's going to complain about. It's just I need to do my thing.
Well, and there is some privacy that you want to have with your players. There's some things that you want to keep between
Right.
point A and point B. So my best question, I think, is going to be to
Is
Brent.
Brent still on the line?
He is.
Hey, Brent, what do you
still
think?
here.
What do you think was the craziest moment in our coaching career?
Craziest moment in the coaching career.
Before or after the basketball game?
So we want to talk about public.
When we all ended up in Brent's pool after that golf outing. That would be the craziest one.
Jeez.
We had some crazy times.
Yes, we have. We've had some. Yeah, we had some great ups. We had some great downs. You got me there. I don't know.
You know what?
When you say crazy, what are you talking about when you say crazy?
Just in general, like I don't know.
The police escorts.
The fights in the almost fights in the parking lot. You know, and Brent said, as a coach, you have ups and downs. It's like no different than relationships. And
Yep.
we had some great ups. I mean, we were fortunate. We won a lot of games.
Yeah.
I can't imagine if we would have lost.
Yeah, but you're right, though, DJ, when you talk about everybody sees the finished product.
Yep.
Brent and I would sit in the locker room with Jeff for 30 minutes after a practice and talk about a kid or a couple kids, and he'd be like, I can't yell at him anymore. Can you go talk to him?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Different
So,
approach.
You know, and so Brent and I would bring, like he said, that calming factor. And it was funny because when we would do our end of the season banquets and stuff like that, so many parents would come up to Brent or I and they'd say, my kid loved you so much.
Yeah.
He loved me because I didn't yell at him every
Yeah.
day.
Almost good guy, bad guy.
You know,
Yeah.
he's not yelling at you every day because he doesn't like you. He's yelling at you because he's trying to get the most out of you, and I'm coming in to build you back up. You know, that's a plan as coaches that we purposely are doing. We're doing the good cop, bad cop to get you to achieve your potential.
Yeah, that was discussed. I mean, that was the
So
plan.
I wasn't always the best guy,
Right.
but that was my job to go in there and make sure you felt better about yourself because he just beat you down.
You know, let me say this, and Brent, just talking to you, could you have ever imagined the success that we had? I mean, I couldn't have imagined. We were hoping to
No.
win 12 games, you know, our first year.
Right. No, never could have imagined it. But then once it started, I don't know if I should even really say this, but once we started winning, and then it became like, it became expected, and then we got to be thinking, wait, we're not even really putting all this much time into this, and what are these other guys are killing themselves,
You were just brilliant.
and we're like, really? I mean, you had Steve Miller on, and he was like one of the few guys who we really respected because he knew what he was doing. The other guys, we knew we could just roll the ball out there and beat them.
Right.
But no way did I think we would win. I don't know. You know the percentage, I'm sure. What did we win, like 80%?
80% of our games, yeah, over
Yeah.
20 years. I mean, we never had a losing season.
And then 10 years into it, it's boring. It's boring. No. Do I want to take a bus ride down to Latonia to win by 40? No.
It's true.
So, so. You know what?
We've talked about that.
I stress myself to work those nights.
Yeah, we were preparing for 5 or 6 games a season.
We
That was it.
talked about it. It really took off to something that I would have never thought.
We found it though. We found it. We stayed with it. You know.
Well, the greatest thing I think we did as coaches, I think a lot of coaches know X's and O's. I think
Better than us, actually.
Maybe
Yeah.
we were able to just get kids to run through the wall.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because we were so honest with them and blunt with them,
Yeah.
you know. And I just, we won 63 games in a row, 3 seasons undefeated. And my wife would say, you need to enjoy the game.
It's hard.
And you can't.
It's
Because
hard.
well, what if we lose?
Yep.
And then when you win, like literally for a half an hour, we'd go out or whatever, and then we'd start talking about the next game
Yeah.
because you didn't want to lose.
Right.
And it kind of snowballed into something I couldn't even have ever imagined.
Yeah, we go 14-6, and we're like, man, we had a terrible year.
Yeah, like what the hell happened this year?
Which is
I
unbelievable.
think we're really fortunate that in McDonald, actually, it's kind of like their culture there now, and also that park.
Yeah.
I don't.
Outdoors.
You can't underestimate the
Right.
importance of that park there, and kids at McDonald putting in hours of basketball all the time, and then kids coming in. I don't know. They still allow kids from Youngstown to come in, you know, pushing them.
Yeah.
And so that park really breeded a competitive environment that we were able to feed off of.
Well, let me say this.
So our kids were a little bit more competitive than I think.
When Brent says kids
agree
coming
with
in, I thought he was talking about transferring in. And make no bones about it, we benefited from some transfers. I mean, there's no question about that. I don't deny that, and I don't care. I mean, as we said on the last show, if a kid wanted to come to McDonald, he followed the rules. We didn't care. Come to McDonald.
Right.
And there were a couple seasons that we had some kids move in, and we won, not because of them, but it clearly helped us.
And we also had all McDonald kids and won 60 games in a row.
Right.
So, I mean, it went
Those
both
3
ways.
undefeated seasons, those were McDonald kids.
Right.
I don't think anybody transferred in, but the first undefeated season prior to that,
Yeah.
we had a couple transfers come
That
in.
was when we were Mick transfer.
Mick transfer. Yeah, the Sebring scorekeeper would mouth off Mick transfer. So what? We just beat you by 30. You know, congratulations.
And we'll get into transfers in a little bit because I definitely want to see kind of where you're at on the thought process of a family when it comes to transferring. Now, to me, there's a bunch of different thoughts that go into it. Where you're schooled, right? Number one, you want the best, set up yourself the best so you can move on to college or your professional life, and where sports come into play for that. Because right now, I think everybody is concerned about with open enrollment. You can go anywhere you want if you're willing to sit out 5 games in football or half the season in whatever other sport on the back end. But again, we'll get to that in a little bit. One of the things that I'm interested to know, you said you won 63 in a row. That game that you lost, was it?
Brian was coaching.
That was
Was
my
it-
That was the year I was off.
Was it? But for both of you, was
This
it?
son of a bitch leads, right? 63 game winning streak. And I said, you know, I really don't want it. I never wanted to be a head coach.
Yeah.
That was never my purpose in coaching. I'm not a teacher, so like Brent was talking about with your schedules, it's hard if you're not a teacher to be a coach. And I couldn't give our success, our work to somebody else. And I'm like, I'll do it for as long as I have to. We come in first game against Gerard, we lose it. So now I'm the coach that just broke the 63 game. Now,
Hey.
to be fair though, we lost all those
Yeah,
kids. that year.
well, let's say, you know, people said you quit because there was no talent. Brian, they won the league championship
win,
that year.
right.
I mean, make no mistake, they had a solid team. Gerard was very good.
But
that
we
year.
had to grow.
Yeah,
And it took
and
some
grind,
time, and we grind, and we figured
yeah.
it out. And then it was in the off season. I'm thinking about coming back next year, and I'm like, boy, I don't want to do this. We had a conversation. I was like, if I step down, will you come back? And he said yes. I'm like, I'm done.
Well, I was hesitant about that. And
But if
only
he would have said
reason-
no, I would have stayed until he was ready. But I never wanted to be the head coach.
The reason why I came back, because people thought this was all like in the works, like
Yeah,
Brian
like
was going to take over for you. That was never the case. I mean, they could believe whatever the hell they want. I don't care. But that was never the case. The reason I came back was I think Zach was going into 5th grade or 4th grade.
Okay.
And I was hesitant about applying. He actually wrote in his resignation letter, Jeff will like take the job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And I started to hear some people that might apply.
Yeah.
If Zach was different, he's
Could play for anybody.
right. It could move, like he likes McDonald. He likes his friends. He wanted to go to McDonald.
Right.
If it was a situation where he could have just transferred to Warren Harding, maybe I wouldn't have come back. let me before Brent goes,
Sure.
I don't know if he's still on the line.
I think so.
You know, one of the greatest things for my 20-year career is I had my friends with me.
Yeah.
I mean, these are my childhood friends. And like when we lost Brent because his job and everything else, his kids had grown, it was tougher on us because we enjoyed that. I also think
That
that's
was our
why we
social
were
hour.
better too.
Yeah.
Because Brian could say, "What the hell are you doing?" Or Brent could say that, or I could say,
They can
"Hey,
be real
need
with
to,
you."
Right, you need to do this, or you need to do that better.
Yeah.
And
We were friends first.
we're friends first.
Yeah.
And you know, we've been friends since we're 48 years old. I mean,
Yeah.
40 years. So that was a great part. I mean, we don't see Brent more than
Make no doubt about it. Jeff was going to do what he was going to do.
Right. Ultimately, Jeff made the final decision. That's for sure.
I never hesitated to tell him when I thought it was wrong, though.
And that's,
I think,
that's
which
a good
I'm
friend.
not so sure he really had that when I wasn't there. I think people were, I don't know about the latest group, but I think people were maybe a little afraid to tell you, well, maybe I think I would do it a little bit different. Whereas I never hesitated to
no.
let you know.
And I always appreciated and
thought-
respected that. I mean, Brent and I, in general, like when my oldest was looking at scholarships for soccer, you know, I'd reach out to Brent and go, "Hey, what do you think about this?" You know, and Brent's a big Pitt fan. So my oldest one that started at Pitt.
Okay.
And what do you think about it? Oh, well, this is this, and we talked about that. You know, that's the friendship
I can't
first.
believe I can't believe at one point you tried to compare a Pitt education with a West Virginia education. Lord.
West Virginia is a
Lord.
top 5 soccer program in the country, and that's, you know, that was a draw to West Virginia. But yeah, he's like, no, Pitt is academically elite.
Brent, anything left to say to your friends here before we take a break?
No. I enjoy listening to you guys. Tough show to do. Tough to do a sports show with no sports going on.
Yeah.
It'll get better here, hopefully. Although I'm with you guys, I just don't think. It's gonna be
Well,
any
you
high
always have the
sports
first
this year.
question, so
The
yeah,
best
we
question. A lot
appreciate
of times,
that.
the best question.
Yeah, you always have the first one, so
I'm
you're
just
going to be
happy-
a part of our show forever.
I'm happy to know he's real. Like, I was starting to wonder.
Yeah. So,
Brent,
hey,
thank
but
you.
Good luck, guys.
Thanks,
Good
Brent.
luck.
Love you,
and,
Brent.
Get together once it's all over.
All right, sounds good.
And there he goes on the YSN hotline. You know, we talked about friendships. Sometimes, you know, when they are by your side, they can say things to you that other people probably couldn't, right?
sure.
It's one of those, and they might say it, but you don't take it to heart the way you would your friend because they're not looking to hurt you. They're not looking to chop you down.
Well, as time went on, we started to have former players coach with us.
Yeah.
And they viewed me as the coach. Even so, it was harder for them to say, you need to think about this and this. It was more me saying to them, you need to do this and this.
But even like Jimmy and Paula,
Yeah.
though, they came in from Struthers and they were our assistants. He's the head coach now at McDonald. They would come to me and say, "Hey, listen, you need to talk to Jeff about so and so and so," and I'd be like, "You go talk to Jeff,"
Right.
you know. But they thought that I had a little bit better access, you know, that he wasn't going to be offended if I was.
And they're great coaches. Jimmy's doing a wonderful job. But sometimes, you know, it's harder because they weren't there when we were pressing. So there were times they'd be like, "Well, is the press working?" I'm like, "We're pressing."
Yeah,
Like
we're
it
not
doesn't
going-
matter.
right.
Like, you tell me anything, but that's not an option because of the success we had.
Yeah. We're going to take a break. Our first break, we made it 33 minutes without a break, guys. That's awesome.
And I
great
see
content.
there's 362 viewers right now.
Killing it. Killing it right now. We're going to take a break, be back with the FCP boys right after this on YSN.
21
Good evening,
News.
and thank you for joining us.
Let's get right to our top
More
story
experienced reporters
tonight. A new Wilmington
At
restaurant.
GM Lordstown,
telling more local stories
We'll look at
baby
efforts
boy
to
is
curb
recovering from a broken.
around our
Good
valley
Community in
afternoon.
Niles,
We are
one
here in
Campbell Valley
Youngstown, right
business.
because you expect
up.
important for everyone. No place like home.
more local news.
In Mercer County
Before
Court.
they become life-threatening.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in the Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Running Point. A couple of different faces that you're not used to seeing, not accustomed to seeing, while Ron has a little vacation. It is the boys from Full Court Press, Brian Higgins, Jeff Brazil, joining me on the other side of the table. Guys, a great first segment. Second one, we're going to change it up, and it is. Brian Rutledge on our Facebook channel saying this is a touchy subject, and it is.
For sure.
But we're not afraid of it. We don't back down, and we're here to break down walls. The transfer rule, the open enrollment rule, things like that. It has been I'm in for it. I like it because it gives parents and kids options. However, it can easily be abused, and we've seen it over the last 2 or 3 years. Jeff, your thoughts on, firstly, overall, the transfer rule of open enrollment and transferring from school to school, maybe without moving. We'll start with that part, and then we'll kind of go down the line.
I think with the transfer, as long as the kids follow the rules. So right now the rules are in place that they have to sit out half the season, and it's the second half. So they missed the tournament basically. Right. I'm okay with all of it. My feelings as a parent and as a coach even is the parents and the kids have to do what's best for them. And loyalty, I get it. Yeah. I get it. But you know, like my oldest daughter, she left McDonald before her 9th grade year. She went to Niles to play soccer. Right. Now, McDonald did not have soccer. And quite honestly, DJ, she didn't even need to play high school soccer. Yeah. Because travel soccer, you know, it's the same as everything else, travel ball. Yep. But, you know, it turned out to be a wonderful experience. She had friends at Niles because of travel ball. Yep. I'm not going to judge people for moving their kids if they think that's in the best interest. However, what I would say is, you know, you get a lot of these parents who think they're going to move their kids, and all of a sudden they're going to get scholarships because of it. Listen, we talked about this on one of our shows. I mean, 2% of high school athletes are getting scholarships. It's probably not your kid. Yeah. And if you're moving them because it's not working out at that place, I'm not so sure it's going to work out at the other place. We've had kids leave McDonald to go play basketball at other places, and it hasn't worked out for them.
It's not always, I mean, you said it before we started this, the grass isn't always greener.
Grass isn't always greener.
But it always looks better, right? But they just don't realize that it's just watered a little bit different, you know what I mean, on the other side. To me, when you look at this, it's become your kid doesn't want to put in the work all the time. You know what I mean? So they look at it and go, okay, I can either be the guy or the girl over here and not have to put in the hard work that I have to for the next 3 years. If you're a freshman or you're an 8th grader, do you feel the same way?
If you're good enough, you're going to play wherever you go. Right. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you're
good enough to play college, they're going to recognize you.
No, it doesn't matter. For sure. It doesn't matter. I mean, you may have better options going somewhere else.
Maybe a better system. Maybe
college
a fresh start or something. But
it doesn't matter.
We've had kids come to us in the off season and say, "Hey, I want to come to McDonald." We told them not to.
Right.
That's true.
And we sat them down and
they would have helped us, Brian.
They would have helped us. There's kids that have come down and sat with us and said, I think I can give you this, this, and this for this season. And we would say, well, you're probably going to be the 7th man. So if you're willing to do that, come on in. And nobody does when we have that conversation with them.
I think what people also forget, parents especially, and parents maybe that are slighted from a kid moving, is you often hear these coaches are recruiting other kids into the. Where do you, as a coach, get all this time to not only do what you do, be a professional, have a job, be a coach, do all the things that go with coaching, and then on top of that, you're a professional recruiter that's going to do this. I mean, is there a fallacy to that?
I think there probably are a few coaches out there that are talking to kids. You know, right now you've got the training is a big thing.
Yeah.
So kids are going to other gyms than what they typically play at.
Right.
And, you know, they come in contact with other coaches. Everybody wants to be wanted. You know, it doesn't hurt to be wanted. Like, hey, listen, if you came to here at McDonald, you get to play the whole game or whatever. And
Yeah, but the
kids buy
bullshit
into
is
that.
when the coaches are selling that and it's not true.
That's what I was going to say. I
mean,
think a lot of time that's just
And that
bullshit.
happens a lot.
We never did that.
No, we are actually probably the opposite. We
Right.
probably gave them worst case scenario every time.
Well, let me say this, Brian. We had a kid who wanted to come back to McDonald before last year. You remember that conversation?
For sure.
In the locker room, we said, wait a second, you need to talk to us.
Yeah.
We put him in the locker room. We said, listen, there's no guarantees you're even starting here.
Right.
Let alone scoring 10, 15 points a game. Kid chose not to come back. We didn't care.
Has it been like this? I mean, you coached 20 years. Has it been like this since the beginning, or where did you see this start coming into effect?
No, I think it's probably been like that. I remember out of Champion, you'd hear rumors of kids leaving or kids coming in and all of that, and most of it never happens. I mean, most of it.
You would see like public versus pro
Private.
before. You know, you would talk
Right.
like the
I
kids are
don't
going to JFK, the kids are going to Ursuline, things
Correct.
like that.
And I don't even want to buy into the public versus private anymore, only because, hell, I mean, you've got these public schools who are basically AAU basketball teams.
Correct.
Right.
And you take a school like McDonald, I mean, we have no shot
Yeah.
against those teams. I mean, so I don't even know if it's public versus private anymore. But I will say this, if a parent and a kid thinks they're better off going somewhere else, go. I don't care. You know, I'm not going to tell people where they should send their kids.
Right.
The loyalty thing with, oh, you grew up in
Right.
East Palestine
Yeah.
or McDonald, I don't know. I don't buy into that. I don't buy into that. You know, you go wherever you think that you're going to benefit. But in most cases, it doesn't always turn out the way you think.
I mean, you've talked to a coach or two in your time at the next level.
Oh, yeah.
Do they look at that and they say, you know, the first thing you see is he transfers his freshman year or let's say sophomore year. Does a coach look at that and go, what was he running from?
I would, 20 years ago, yes, DJ.
Yeah.
Today, we've had coaches. We had a major college basketball coach come in and tell us that Zach should be somewhere else, only because
You could say who that is.
recognition.
You're not going to say it?
No, I mean, it doesn't need to be said. But he's one of the top 10 coaches in the country.
Wow.
And he said, came to our gym, watched Zach for 2 hours.
Where, like, what kind of school would he want to see
He
him
said he
at?
needs to go to Sharon Kennedy tomorrow.
Okay.
I mean, and he said only because he would be playing with other Division I athletes versus better competition, and he would be recognized different. Now, his numbers wouldn't be the same. He's not going to Sharon Kennedy and scoring 40 points a game, but it wouldn't matter, you know. And we had some family conversations about that.
Yeah.
And you know, would he be better off? And
Ultimately, it's what your goal is.
Exactly.
And that's not even like the talent level that Zach had. That's like a kid comes to us. We had a kid that came from Ridge. He came to McDonald. He probably lost 5 to 10 shots a year.
Yeah.
But he had a chance to win a district championship every year. So what? I mean, he wasn't going to play college basketball. So what's your goal? Do you want to be a part of a winning team, or do you want to average 15 points a game?
And he sat out.
Yeah.
He sat out his junior year, half the season. And we had a really good team that year. That was when he sat out the first half of the year.
Yeah.
By the time he came back, we were rolling. He didn't even play in the second half because what am I supposed to do? You know, try to influx a kid who hadn't been playing. We were number one in the state that year.
If you don't have the talent to play college at whatever sport, winning is more important to me.
Yes.
I feel like
I agree.
I would rather win a district championship than average 20 points a game and go 5 and 17.
I mean, I guess I take it a little bit different. You guys just talk about friends. I want to be with my guys.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, winning's great, but if you're winning with a bunch of guys that you don't know and you're just learning to be around, it's a little bit different. You know what I mean? You know, that's where travel ball comes.
I was just going to say, DJ, you know, I'm 48 years old, so you didn't have it.
Yeah.
So my friends were my
Yep.
high school friends or whatever, my friends from my town.
Right.
Today, everybody knows everybody. You know, it's a different game. That's why it's even taken away from rivalries.
Yes.
You know, years ago, you knew who played, like we were from Hubbard, Brookfield, you know, it was a rivalry.
Yep.
You knew who played at Brookfield. You weren't friends with them. You didn't talk to them.
Right.
Today, you know, we go to Springfield and one of those kids played on our AAU team.
Yep.
He trained at my house.
Yeah.
One
So
of the
you
kids
know
dating
each
a girl
other.
from Springfield. They all
Right,
talk to each other.
right.
You know, they all know each
So
other.
they all know each other. So I think even that's been taken away. But I think very few kids are going to go to college for their sport. In which case, enjoy, your friends and
Yeah.
your experience and go from there.
Do you feel that as over the last 20 years, the kids have gotten a little bit softer, so to speak, in the way
I don't
of
know.
in the way
I
of
would
like
say-
not how you talk to them, but how they take things to heart?
You know what I would say? People say, what's changed
Yeah.
about kids? I don't think kids have changed. I don't think parents have changed. I think social media.
Right.
Now kids can go online and write whatever shit they want about other kids, coaches, and all of that, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Social media has given everybody a pedestal.
High school athletes think they're professional athletes.
And that's the problem.
They think they can text, or not text, but message or post at halftime of their high school basketball game about their coach.
Yeah.
Like, you do that to me, you'll never play another minute.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the issue is they see these athletes doing it and they're garnering attention. And social media, let's just be honest, it can be a tool or
Yes.
it can make you look like a tool. So it's one of those things where you have to be careful. We are going to go to the YSN hotline. Go ahead.
What's up, fellas?
What's going on? Who's this?
Rich.
Oh, it's Rich. Rich, how we doing?
Man, if I got any better, I couldn't stand it. How's your cohort doing?
Oh, Ron.
Yeah, guys don't guy,
Ron is in he's in good shape. The test came back negative, and he will be back on the air August 5th, I believe, is his return date. So, yeah,
Always good news.
yeah, we a lot of prayers for him, and we're happy that he's going to be back with us here shortly. What's going on?
Well,
Hey, Rich, real quick, he's going to come back on air only because I have to go back to school.
And listen, when they asked us to come in today, nobody was happier to hear that the COVID test was negative than us.
Well, usually they say you got a big shoes to fill. In that case, you have a big mask to fill.
That's it.
That's true.
That's it. What's on your mind, Rich?
Opinion on this Major League Baseball thing going on there. I'm sickened. I'm saddened. Every team's going to make the playoffs. Basically, you can have a team with a losing record and make the playoffs in MLB now. I hope this doesn't continue into post-COVID, if that ever happens.
I can get on board with you on that. I think that, and we were just going to get into the participation trophy, and everybody gets a ribbon kind of thing. And I think this is the era we live in. I think wholeheartedly that, and I've said it before, if you're going to make mistakes and quote unquote fail forward in a sport, a major sport right now, this is the year to do it. If you're going to try out things and they're going to fall flat on their face, you've got a small window here to try it. And I think that's what Major League Baseball, for some reason, I think it finally clicked. And now they're going to try different things. I like the stand-ups in the back. They're trying to make revenue. They're trying to figure it out. And it was weird. I was watching last night. It was the Los Angeles San Francisco game. Mm-hmm. And at one point, it fooled me to think that there was actually people there. Right. And even though they had the white outline around them, if you do it right, you can probably fill that stadium. So if a drone goes over top, it looks like it's filled. I do not like the empty stadium look at all. Like when Aaron Judge hit that bomb last night, that the baseball sat there for 8.5 innings. It's a little bit weird. You know what I mean? So baseball's got to start making some mistakes, because that tells me, Rich, that they're trying. They haven't tried for so long, and that's why it's got such a bad rap. The marketability is dog crap of Major League Baseball, and that's why the NBA and the NFL and even hockey is starting to pass it as America's favorite pastime. And hockey doesn't even belong to us.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on
baseball has taken a backseat to all the formats. They'll be lucky if they pull this off this year. If they don't pull it off this year, they'll be lucky if they don't get ranked behind bocce. I'm serious.
Well, here in Youngstown, it already ranks behind bocce. I'm pretty sure.
Oh my God. Well, I tried watching that game, the Yankee game last night, because I couldn't stay up long enough to watch the West Coast game. But I just can't do it. I know they're the stand-ups, and yeah, it looks like real, but it's not.
I'll take
It's
any
not.
sports right now, man.
For sure.
I'll be
It's
real
not.
with you. I get it. I understand. Like, I'm tired of exhibitions. I want sports. I want games that matter. I mean, the one thing we haven't talked about on the network this week is Scene Park started their playoffs on Monday, and we have seen unbelievable traffic into that park. And even with the masks last night, there was a ton of people. People just want stuff that matters right now. This country is so divided. They want to stop thinking about some of the garbage that's going on. They just want to be numb.
We need the distraction.
Yeah,
as a country, we really do.
Yeah, and I think now that we've got opening night last night, opening day today, the Tribe and the Pirates are playing. I got my Pirates gear on.
But the only thing it does is fellas, the only thing it does with pro sports, you can go to Shane Park and see a live baseball game with real people and real umpires. Okay? You're still going to be in your house watching a damn game. Okay, so it satisfies the baseball junkie. But you're still in lockdown. And it satisfies the gambling junkie. Okay. No, I'm neither at this point.
Right.
But you're still at home, in your living room, locked down.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this: as a new father, I would rather be watching the Giants and Dodgers than Dora the Explorer. Okay, so if
I watched cornhole one day.
Yes.
I watched cornhole for an hour and a half. I mean, seriously,
it's riveting.
Yeah.
I'll be more than glad to go because I haven't really most of my listening to ball games, whether it be Pittsburgh or Cleveland, is done by way of radio. I'm an old-fashioned guy. I like the guys who have knowledge about the game, calling the game, instead of bobbleheads that read prompters,
Yeah, the good-looking guys get the TV time, so it's.
Well, that's okay.
That's why we're on.
Manning and Matt.
That's why Podesta's at home.
Manning's pathetic. He may have some baseball knowledge, but he's way past that now. He's into the glamour.
Yeah.
I'll take Hamilton anytime.
Baseball's built for the radio.
It is. And that's why.
You can spend all day in the yard and listen to a baseball.
And I've said it a million times. That's why it's lacked popularity because it didn't transition well to TV, and it's just not a good game to watch on television. Football is. Basketball is. In basketball, this is going to be interesting. We were going to talk about this in that bubble down in Orlando. They've got 20 cameras on each court.
That's crazy.
I mean, you're not going to miss a thing. They got slow-mo cameras. They got 4K cameras. I mean, it is going to change the game. I want to see everybody mic'd up, for my personal opinion, because if I'm going to be entertained, if I'm going to sit home, Rich, to your point, if I'm going to be at home, I want something that I've never seen before. They've got to entertain. Now, that if your stadium, let's say Heinz Field, holds 64,000, that's 64,000 people that you had their every inch of attention, right? Now you have 64,000 people at home that you need to entertain on television. So when you look at it, the networks have got to step up, and I think that the problem is the network is the tail that's wagging the dog a little bit because they're paying all the money for it, and the purists out there for baseball don't want change. And radio, you don't have to change a lot because you just have to describe. Like Rich said, the guys that sound like they know what they're talking about because they have to paint the picture. From a TV standpoint, we can have a discussion like this while the game goes on, and you don't have to worry about it. So it's interesting. Rich, what else you got?
That's about it, fellas. Have a wonderful weekend. It's supposed to be hot as you know what. Enjoy your families and be safe.
You got it, brother. Thanks for the call.
Later.
I think you're right, though, with sports. It's just, you see, it's almost like the same business model that everybody's experiencing because of COVID. I hear so many people saying, because of COVID, it made us adapt this, and this. So now we're going to do this with technology. It's going to make a better product. It's going to help us do our work a little bit easier. And I think sports is in the same boat. Let's experiment right now. Let's figure it out.
I think a lot of people figured out that what they thought was a great idea to work from home, they can't do.
Right.
It's not that you have to have a special mindset to be able to work from home, right? Because there's a lot of things going on, especially when the kids are home. There's a lot of stuff going on that takes your mind off of what you're supposed to do. So some people productivity goes up, and some people it goes way down.
I felt like for me it was like I worked all day. It wasn't. There was no 9 to 5 anymore. It was like I was answering emails at 8 o'clock at night. I was having a beer at 11:30. So it was just like that's for me. I felt like I was a 24-hour work shift.
How about you, Jeff? Do you like being a teacher? Are you liking the remote thing?
it was different challenges because you're sending out assignments to 100 kids and you're hoping to get them back, and a lot of times you didn't get them back, or they didn't put their name on the assignment, and then you're chasing. So it was a different game. It was a different headache.
How did they not put their name? Is it an email?
I would send them. So we have Google Classroom. Basically, you send
Okay.
out the assignments, and I'd say make sure you put your name on them. Well, some kids when they send it back, it would just be from DJ, so you
Okay.
knew that already.
Gotcha.
But other times it wouldn't say who it's from, and they didn't put their name on it. It was complicated. Probably 25-30% of the kids didn't do the assignments, and then you're tracking them down. I could understand from their end though. It was tough. It was tough.
Yeah, I mean the sports thing, I didn't mind it. Just having sports that mattered. I don't
Yeah.
care if it's the first game of the season, last game of the season. Like
Right.
it counted. The exhibitions are great, but when you got a dude out there shagging balls and gym shorts, there's a little bit something different.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the NBA stuff. Are you guys NBA fans at all, or do you just kind of?
I don't know. I mean,
Watch it,
it's
yeah.
probably bad for me to say that I'm not a huge basketball fan since I coached basketball for 20 years.
You can say it now, right? You can
But
say
the
anything.
NBA, I'll watch it, but it's probably not my favorite sport to watch.
I used to watch college basketball nonstop.
Yeah.
I don't watch it anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
What triggered?
I don't know. I don't know if it's just because you're coaching and you're going from basketball, you don't want to come home. But when we were growing up, you couldn't wait to see that Duke North Carolina game.
Yep.
Yeah.
I could care less anymore.
So when they canceled the tournament this year, did
Well,
it bother you?
If you said to me what one event could you, sporting event could you go to? I think it'd probably be the NCAA Final Four, to be honest with you.
Out of
But-
everything.
Out of everything, yeah. But did it bother me? It didn't make a huge impact on my life.
Yeah. But, I mean, was there a moment where you were like,
It's
oh,
just
this
disappointing. I actually thought economics, like, holy smokes, this is going to kill colleges.
Yeah. It bummed me out. Like, it was one of those
Yeah.
things, like, that was the biggest event that kind of went down first, the biggest domino.
Right.
And then everybody kind of went, uh-oh, what
Yep.
now?
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, back to the YSN hotline we go. Caller, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Mike from Hubbard. I just had a question about all the professional sports leagues that are reopening and everything. Which ones they think may have the best chance of actually completing their season? Myself, I think baseball.
That's an interesting take.
Let me start by saying the best thing that they've done recently is change the Washington Redskins name.
We know Mike. Mike's actually my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay. And is he a Washington fan?
He sent us a question that we were actually going to use on our next FCP show about the logo and the change of name and stuff like that. We might want to leave that for the FCP show.
Yeah. No, but I think baseball has the best chance. I mean, basketball, you're banging.
Yep.
Football, you're banging. Hockey, you got the mask, you're still banging. Baseball, they do it the right way. No fans in the stands is a good thing, but I just don't see how the other sports are going to be able to complete the seasons unless something amazing happens where they take enough precautions and
those bubbles.
And let me say, look, I'm gonna just switch gears just a little bit, Mike, and talk about high school based on that.
Yeah.
Because I agree with them. I don't know how they're going to play high school sports for what Mike just said. I mean, you got basketball, you're rubbing against people. You got football, you're hitting people.
And you're not taking your McDonald basketball team and putting them in a bubble.
No,
You're going to be
right. And you're not testing them every day.
Right.
And then if you get tested, who pays for that?
Right.
These are not inexpensive.
Did you see the OHSAA guidelines?
Oh.
Like football, you have to social distancing when you're on the sidelines. So they're going to take kids and they're going to put them 6 feet apart across the whole
So
sideline.
I don't know. Did you see that it's going to go? It's typically 50 yards that the
Right,
sideline,
I
and now
did.
it's going to be 80.
Yeah.
Which I think that's the best rule that they actually it's right here. If you guys want, it's the best rule they put in. But you look at this and the masks are on.
They have to wear masks on the sidelines.
Yeah, which I think in football season it'll be easier because when it's 92 out there and we're putting masks on and off, it gets a little warm and uncomfortable. Whereas people typically will put a gaiter on in wintertime anyway. But my thing is this: again we talked about this at the top of the show. Sorry, Mike, to take over your question, but the thing for me is everybody's talking about football. They're not letting cross country in. There's 3 sports that are approved right now, and it's volleyball, it is golf, and it is tennis. To where you look, and you have baseball and softball naturally, but if they're not, they're saying it's a pack-like mentality that's going. But if they're not going to approve cross country, There's no way they can do football, right?
Yeah, I think it's totally different when you start talking about high school sports. But in terms of professionals, I mean, I was impressed that the NBA didn't have one case. I mean, to keep those guys in a bubble and you test 300 and some players and they all have one case after that. I mean, that's if they can not let it come in and those guys listen, it's got to be about those guys listening. I already heard that they were like, this girl was called that she was supposed to come in to see one of the NBA. Once that happens, they bring one in, then they're shutting it down.
I would agree with Mike, though. I think baseball has the best chance.
I'm with him, but
I would agree.
To add on to that question, what sport do you think crumbles first?
Well, J.R. Smith is in the NBA, so you know he's getting.
But that's, I mean, they've asked the experts, and every expert has come back and said, listen, this is going to be great because nobody has a positive test. However, it's going to take one lonely night from one of these guys on the road, and it's over.
Well, like someone calls and they want a pizza. I mean, it doesn't even have to be something.
We saw what happened to Jordan.
Yeah.
What the hell is going to happen to, when you have an NBA championship on the line and LeBron wants a pie, what are you going to do?
Yep. It's and once you get it, you're giving it to everybody, especially in basketball. I think basketball is probably the worst scenario.
In trouble.
I think so. I mean, you got no gear. Yeah, I mean, it is body on body. It's not even football. You got all the gear that you can. I mean, they can make precautions, the visors, the spit guards.
The biggest question is going to be is how are they going to deal with it if somebody dies? I mean, if an NBA basketball player dies,
they shut it down.
They're going to have to shut it down.
And they're going to shut down every sport.
And then you're going to wonder, was it all worth it?
And that's the lingering question. Yeah. Like LeBron wants another championship because as Quinn and I battle all the time, it's MJ versus legacy. LeBron. Yeah. You want that, but if is it worth your life for a legacy? You know what I mean?
It's the same thing with high school. I hear parents all the time, well, they should be playing basketball, football, whatever it is. Okay, and if your kid doesn't die, you're probably going to say the same thing. But what if it's your kid that dies?
Yep.
Boy, are you going to change your mindset.
Yeah, I mean, thoughts and prayers, well and good, right? Yeah. But if it's your kid on that deathbed and you look at it and you say, all that I had to do was say no.
Yeah. Right.
The guilt that you'll have for the rest of your life.
Even sending your kid to school.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, in general.
Yeah, but, I agree with you. Mm-hmm. But to be devil's advocate, someone's going to say, yeah, you shut it all down, then you didn't have sports and nobody, you know what I mean?
Right.
They're going to say,
the same thing they argued with the economy in general.
Right.
And you look at the numbers.
Well, who was it? The Texas governor said. The Texas governor said it's worth the lives.
Right.
Or whoever had said that. One of the governors had said that.
The problem I have, and I don't know if you guys saw this last night. Fauci threw the first pitch out for Washington.
That was a flat curve, by the way.
You flattened that curve real quick, and it also was to the left. But it was one of those things where they caught him in the stands, sitting in the middle of 3 seats. His mask was down. The person next to him, mask was off. This is the guy that is giving us the guidelines to put the masks on and keep them on. If it is do as I say, not as I do, how many people, I mean, you've already seen it on social media, how many people are going to go to hell with it?
I think it's the same thing we talked about at the beginning when we talked about every individual person has to make these decisions because there's no leadership at the top telling us what to do.
Yeah, we won't get into that.
I'm just saying though. But I mean, if this was all mandated from one source, whether it be Ohio or the president or Fauci or whoever that is, and then like we were talking about, a superintendent has to make a call for all these kids.
I feel for the superintendent.
I do too.
Well, that's. Imagine being in those situations because ultimately you're making the call.
Right.
The kids are going to go back 5 days a week or kids are going to go back 2 days a week, whatever it is.
With half the people disagreeing,
no matter what. Right. It's a lose-lose. Right. No matter what they do. And then imagine something happening within your school.
Right.
If nothing happens.
But that's the thing.
Imagine something happening.
But where does it come into being just afraid of everything? You know what I mean?
Right, DJ, I get it.
Yeah,
I absolutely get it.
That's where that the superintendent is in a terrible position right now, or whoever's making the decisions for schools.
Right.
They're in terrible positions because the OHSAA goes, do whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's on you.
Right.
And some of the conversations we've had internally is who's paying for the insurance now?
Right.
Who's paying for how can you even get picked up? What is I'm sure, and we can bring in our insurance experts, but you have the sky, it just rises to the sky because if somebody gets hurt, somebody gets ill, somebody dies, like now
let's talk about superintendents and administrators, principals. One question someone had sent us was, about administrators and their role in high school sports, specifically with the coaches. And we were planning on talking about that today a little
Yeah,
bit.
but Mike's on the line, though. You still want
Mike, you still on the line?
Yeah, I'm still on. Two quick things.
All right.
Jeff, don't pick on my Cincinnati Reds. They're going pretty good. I'm going to tell you that right now. And they're not a communist team. Okay, got you that right now.
Change the name.
And the other thing, being that my wife works for the schools, all the superintendents from the areas are all getting together on pretty much, I think, weekly meetings to discuss every opportunity and aspect of what may or may not happen. So it's not just one superintendent and that individual school's decision. They're all getting together to try to discuss things, to go over scenarios on what may or may not happen. Good show. Take care, you guys.
Thanks, Mike. I've been in education for a long time. You put 20 superintendents in a room.
That's true.
Just like in general, put 20 head coaches in a room and try to come to a game plan. Doesn't work out.
Here's my thing, and I'm okay with it.
That's why they should just let me make the decision.
There it is. See, I would not want to be the guy that makes the decision because no matter what you do, it's wrong.
It is wrong.
It's wrong. Because one side you're stealing from some kid's legacy, and on the other side you could be stealing some kid's life.
Right. Beyond the seriousness of like life or death and health, I mean, logistically, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's worse today though than it was when they shut down the schools.
Right.
Think about that.
Right.
The worst, and this is going to come off really, really wrong the way I'm going to phrase this, but the worst thing about the other side, where the person is safe, is they can always say, "Well, I wish I would have been able to play."
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
you're
Because
right.
if they're not, that's the worst case scenario. But but the fact that if they don't get sick, they can. Well, actually, I could have played.
Yep.
I'm fine. I would have made it out. When you just don't know.
You don't know.
And the numbers, I get it. I'm with everybody else, and Potesta talks about it all the time. And the numbers, you got a better chance of getting hit by lightning right here inside this building than you do getting COVID and dying. However,
Potesta probably shouldn't talk about that.
I think that's probably going to not happen anymore. But it's one of those things where like, do you want to be the statistic, the guy,
right,
the guy that beats the Undertaker, you know? So no pun intended. It's one of those things where it's a dance, and the superintendents. I'm happy to hear that they're having these meetings. They're in lockstep, because can you imagine if you had 13 that want to go back to school and play, and you had the other 17 or 30, that go, no, screw this.
Right.
If they're all coming from the same way and walking the same direction, I'm good.
Yeah.
The other ones, I can only imagine, because there's going to be a gunslinger, a wild west, where they're going to go, well, this is our year. This is our year in football. This is your it doesn't.
Well, we've even heard craziness from people that said, like, my kid's at 800 points or 900 points. Are you going to consider him a 1,000-point scorer? No, you're not a 1,000-point scorer. You didn't score 1,000 points. I'm sorry, COVID's here, and I get it. But if you don't play basketball, no, you are not a 1,000-point scorer.
Well, let me jump in on that. 1,000 points means nothing. It means nothing.
Well, or 2,000, whatever the number is.
Listen, from a basketball coach's perspective, we're playing a few more games than before. 1,000 points. Everybody wants their picture on the wall or whatever. It's silly.
Fantastic. I mean,
silly.
I'm with you. We're going to take a break here, pay some bills. When we come back, we're going to talk about, well, Brian, you got a whole list of things we haven't even touched yet.
We have a bunch of questions that people sent in, and we're going to talk about that.
You know what? I want to briefly talk about, administrators in their role with high school
That's
sports.
one of our questions.
Yep.
Okay.
It kind of came up.
So we got some questions that are ready to go. All of that and more on Running Point with the FCP boys right after this.
The details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well-appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
It's storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Today in the showers, I'm keeping my eye on in parts of Columbiana County.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN. Hey, and welcome back to Running Point. DJ Oakley with you on this side of the table. Jeff Brazil, as well as Brian Higgins on the other side. Before we get to the questions, Brian, we have a question from our very own Jeff Bezos here, the new and improved, as he declares himself, quote-unquote, big sexy. And he's got a question for you guys.
So how many games will the Yankees win this season? You know we're basketball coaches, right? How many games do they play?
60.
60.
All right,
I knew that.
Let's do an over/under. Let's do that.
Okay.
What do you think? 35.
Oh, I was going to say like 40.
40?
Yeah.
40?
That's a fair number.
40?
So I want to preface it. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Go back to playing Wii.
If you want us to talk about football or something, we can do that too.
So to preface this a little bit, yesterday we're having an argument here, and Jeff tells us about how the Yankees lineup is so much better than the Indians. Now, we're playing 60 games. I said, okay, how good are they? How many games are they going to win? And he said, 32. I said, so they're the best lineup in baseball, and they're winning 30.
They're going 500.
They're going 500. Okay, so I think he's just spit it out, and then he realized what he said after. So, Brian, you have a list of questions from people. Let's. You have the floor, sir.
All right, what we do with FCP is we do a little segment called Coach's Office, and this is when people bring in questions to us, and I give them to Jeff, and he's honest about it, and he's not allowed to pull any punches when he talks about these questions. And we've had some good ones. We've had some people go, and we had a ton come in because of us being on the show today. So you want to do that, or you want to take that call? I see that lit up. Do you want to do that first?
Well, we can bring. I think it's Jim Powers. So we'll take this call and we can have.
We know Jim Powers.
Jimmy, we'll have you hold on for just a second. We're gonna get our first question on. Hang on.
Sorry, no problem.
Okay, and this actually comes from Brent from Hubbard.
From Hubbard.
And he wants to know how involved should administrators be in high school sports?
That's what we were kind of just in general, you know, these administrators are their backs are against the wall with everything going on. But this is something that we've talked about over the years. You know, we've never had a bad administrator.
Oh,
we've never had a bad administrator.
You might have issues here and there,
but overall, I mean, we've had good administrators. But you know, the one thing I think the administration, whether it be the principal or superintendent, they need to be involved in the policy making of the basketball program, of the sports programs, not in the day-to-day operation of the strategy. And, you know, I had a principal ask me recently, they had made a decision that they didn't want a 7th grader to play 8th grade, basically, or something like that. There was some issue. And the principal just asked my opinion, you know, what did you think? And I shared what I thought. And it just gives a different perspective as a basketball coach. I think that she respected me as the coach. It was not at our school, just wanted my opinion, and I gave my opinion. I think it gives a different perspective. I don't think that principals or superintendents should be telling me who should be playing. I don't think they should be telling me who should dress varsity.
Right.
You know, there's years we dressed 8 kids on varsity, and sometimes the administration didn't understand why. We only dressed kids on varsity that A, were going to play, or B, deserved it for other ways.
Right.
Like they came to every open gym, or, you know, just the dedication. But we wouldn't just dress a 9th or 10th or 11th guy simply because we're going to put 12 kids on a bench.
And I think in the history of our coaching, I think you see administrators that they're all about school education. They don't care about sports. They're hands off.
Completely hands off.
And then there's other ones that maybe have been coaches in the past or teachers in the past, and they seem to have a little bit more influence, or they want to be more influential because they feel like they have a platform to talk to you about sports.
And I that's okay as long as they're not trying to
telling
dictate.
you what to do.
Yeah,
right.
you know.
These aren't suggestions. These are like we expect expectations, I guess.
Well, we had a principal one time tell us that, you know, and I used that example of 8 kids, that we should dress more kids for this reason. At the end of the game, if you're winning big, you can put them in. I said, yeah, but those kids don't deserve to play on a varsity court yet. You know, they're not good enough, and they weren't dedicated enough that makes sense.
You're not trying to offend somebody. You're just saying
listen,
there's an expectation of our level.
Well, we consider it an honor.
Yeah.
You want to sit on the bench.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta either be good enough or you gotta put the time in. You know, we had an administrator one time talk about the score a little bit.
Yeah,
thought the score was a little bit out of control in one of the games, but yet later that year I saw, like, I think it was that year or shortly thereafter, like there was a softball score that was like 17-0.
That was the thing that always killed us in basketball, because we'd run up the score and we'd be like 110 to 85.
Right.
And I'm like, if you look at percentage wise, I know we put 110 on you because everybody says you can't score 100 points.
Right.
Everybody's offended by that. You know, when that bucket goes in, it goes to 100, and you're trying to make fun of the other side, or you're trying to, you know, bully them or whatever. But a football team could win 35-0 and that be okay. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, even let's just use golf, for example. You know you're going to crush. McDonald's going to crush Middle Ridge, whatever it is, and you know they're going to beat them by 50 strokes. Should you tell your guy to golf shitty that day?
Yeah. Throw one in the woods.
You know, the baseball team's up 10-0. We'll go up there and please strike out. You know, these kids have pride too in their stats and everything else.
Right.
I just I think that administrators, whether it be the superintendent or the principals, should probably, you know, hey, I don't know about practicing on Sundays. We were big Sunday practices because we didn't practice on Saturdays.
Yeah.
Maybe if that's a rule. You know, when we first started out at Champion, do you remember Wednesdays after like 6 o'clock you weren't allowed to practice?
It was like family night
It was
or something.
family night and youth group night.
Yeah.
They had like a big youth group.
Yep.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, that's your
You know,
policy.
that was your policy.
Right.
I can live with that. If you have a policy that you shouldn't practice on Sundays, I can live with that. If you're going to tell me who should be playing, we had a situation towards the
Here's
end of
my
our
thing.
career.
Before you get it, here's my thing on that. You hired me to do a job.
Right.
Let me do my job.
There it is.
If you don't like it,
Don't hire
fire
me.
me at the end of the year and bring in whoever you want, or you apply.
I'm with that.
We had a situation one time where we had an administrator tell us that everybody at the middle school level should play. And the reason why is because the year before, a parent bitched because her kid didn't play in a couple games. Well, he didn't know that kid didn't play in like 3 or 4 games. 2 or 3 of them, we tried to put him in, the coach, and he was afraid. He didn't want to go in. But the parent, either the kid didn't relay that to the parent, or the parent didn't care, and then it goes to the administration, and administration was,
There's no conversation with the coach, and now you're trying to make a policy that everybody plays.
And let's face it, we weren't bums. I mean, we won a lot of games, and we did it our way most of the time. I'm not saying it's always the right way, but so
we didn't hate kids. We're not trying to punish kids. No. We love the kids. We love the players.
No. So I just think that, you know, administration should be involved in the policy making, assuming there's nothing crazy going on, you know, abuse. Outside of that, if you don't like me, don't hire me. Brian, you remember I used to have that meeting with the parents at the beginning of the year, 7th through 12th grade,
Classic.
and I'd be like, you could call anybody you want. You could call the superintendent. You could call the school board. I don't care.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell me what to do. So call them up, and they don't have to bring me back the next year.
And then you see that in a lot of these small schools. You know, you have access to the superintendent.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know them. You went to school with them, or you see that a lot.
Everybody knows everybody at McDonald's.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right,
We're gonna go to Jimmy
we'll
here
go to Jim.
real quick.
Yeah,
Jimmy, what's on your mind, brother?
You know, it's good to hear 2 former coaches actually stepping out of their comfort zone to actually do a talk show.
Well, we're not coaches anymore, so it's a little bit easier for us to do that.
I said former.
Yeah.
And so, hey, here's a quick question for you guys. And I know what I went through when I stopped coaching. What's the thing that you guys are going to miss most about coaching?
2 things. The relationship with the kids.
For sure.
You know, it's you have special kids. Not every kid's special. You know, I would say 95% of the kids that went through our program enjoyed playing for us, and we still have a relationship with.
Yeah.
You know, there's always a small percent that don't. The second thing for me, it's just that big Friday night game. It really, there's not much that replaces that. When you're playing Wellsville, they're undefeated, we're undefeated. It's a jam-packed, you know.
You want to be JFK.
Yeah, you want to. Yes. I mean, this year we Sebring on the TV, and you know Springfield and Waterloo. And
Yeah, there's
kids
nothing
like
in
that.
my life except watching your kids play. If your kids have
Yeah.
success, like watching my kid play hockey and he's successful, that's a big thing.
Right.
But that Friday night, you can't duplicate in anything you do.
Right.
That adrenaline, that rush, the winning.
Well, and I was going to say, we won a lot of those games, but the few that we lost,
Crushed
it
you.
sucked.
They crushed
I
you.
mean, you're done. Your
Yeah.
weekend's over.
Yeah.
You'd hear your phone buzz at 3:30 in the morning. You're like, shit, Jeff's.
Yeah.
He's still up.
You know, Brent had touched on this, and he had said the effort. You know, there was times where it didn't feel like we were making the effort, and I do agree with that to some extent, like practice.
Yeah.
But I'm 24/7.
Yeah.
I think that's
you're
why
never
we
turning your
won.
brain off, right.
I'd be up in the middle of the night writing down plays, or I watched game film nonstop and picked up things, and then I'd be texting these guys like, "You got to see this. You got to see this. You got to see that." I think that's where. I don't want to say we outworked other coaches, but I know that I was 24/7, and it probably took 10 years off my life. I mean, I tell the kids in school, I'm probably like 75% dead right now.
For sure.
You know, I got 10 years left.
We would always, every gym we'd go into, we'd see where the defib was, because if he goes down, we'd have to pop him with it.
Well, we're going to make the most out of those last 10 years here at
Yeah,
YSN.
hopefully.
Jimmy, you got anything else?
Yeah, you know, and you guys were talking earlier, you know, since I'm down here in St. Louis now, you know, about the states and how the school districts are. Well, here in Missouri, we're in the same boat as Ohio is right now. You know, they're leaving it right now up to the individual school districts to make their decision. But the one big rub is if a school goes all virtual, like there's two of the biggest school districts here in the St. Louis area and a couple big powerhouse football and basketball schools that if they're going all virtual, which they've already made their decision, they're not allowed to participate in any athletic event.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
That is not the rule in Ohio.
No, because Cheney and East are doing it right now.
Right, Youngstown City, all Youngstown City, K through 12 is all remote. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and it's turned into a big firestorm as the schools have been rolling out their, you know, return to school plans and everything, and then you've got these, you know, two of the biggest districts in the St. Louis area, and, you know, you've got a Hazelwood Central team, you know, both football and basketball, that are absolutely just year in and year out. So you're seeing them making deep runs. And right now, they aren't going to have football. They're not allowed to participate in any athletics sponsored by, you know, the state association. And that's one of the big rules that the state association
Talk about
came
pressure for
down
opening
with.
up.
That I know
Yeah.
it's different. It's different than any other state.
Well, here's a question for you. When did they make that decision? Like, what timing did they have for it? Is it in the last month, 2 months? When was that?
The state association came down with that decision last Wednesday, and the schools started rolling out their back-to-school plan on Monday of this week. So literally, I know of two districts that were going to go virtual, but once the association came out with that, they switched gears and figured out a way to where they can go hybrid, 2 days in school, 3 days virtual.
See, that drives me insane too, because why did you make the virtual decision?
Yep.
So you're going to change it for sports? So it's okay to, I mean, I don't know what their decision-making process was,
Right.
but they changed it to have sport.
Right.
I don't understand that.
The biggest fear that I have here in Ohio is that, number one, we already talked about the OHSAA putting the power, which it should be in the governor's hands, but let's make a stand, right? Let's make a choice. If we get to that magic August 1st date, which is a week away,
right?
And they decide nothing, then you just wasted. You put people in harm's way,
right,
for all this time, and then you're going to put. What's the difference? That's why
there's colleges right now that are basically canceling the season, but saying their kids can still train and practice.
Yes.
I don't even understand.
I mean, Walmart. I mean, some of these major corporations coming out and saying we're going to require you to wear a mask, but not for 72 hours. Like until that, because they know that people are going to rush and there's going to be a giant revenue boost and a spike. Right. But that's what bothers me is, like, why not now? Like, if you're going to make me wear a mask, make me wear it now.
If this is why you're making that decision, it should be this minute.
Correct.
Right.
And that's my thing is I feel like everywhere we look, it's everybody's on the fence.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then
nobody knows. It's uncharted.
And that's the crazy part of all this. So how do you make a decision? I get it, and it's kind of contradicting myself, but you have to.
Right.
If you're in a position of leadership, you have to make a decision and live with it.
And live with it.
As a coach, you have to make tough decisions, and live with them.
And sometimes they don't work out.
No, they don't. And listen, you're always going to be wrong with somebody.
Yeah.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
That's it, baby.
That's it.
It's a good song, too. Anything else, Jimmy?
No, it's great. You guys are doing a great job. I always try to tune in whenever I can, and since I'm working from home, I got a little bit more time on my hands. But
Jimmy and the Lou.
By the way, DJ, any scoop you want on these two, let me know, because I can tell you a lot of stuff about these two from back in the high school days.
I am going to tell a story that I'm a little bit embarrassed about with Jimmy Powers. I think we won a shot contest at Quaker Steak and Lube where one of the things that we had to do, or it was trivia, but it had like shots, so you'd win shots if you would win. I think we actually had to do Twister at one point. Do you remember that, Jim?
Oh my gosh, yes, that was so many years ago.
Left foot red.
So I think Jimmy and I were the Twister champions that night at Quaker Steak and Lube at Sharon, and I think what they give you is a shot, which is ridiculous because that's probably the last thing you need. If you're doing Twister with Jim Powers at
Brian,
Quaker Steak and
I
Lube.
can only imagine Brian and Jimmy. I don't remember that. Was I there?
You were there.
But remember too, I was a heck of a lot skinnier back then than what I am now.
Yeah, I was always small, so it was easy for me in Twister.
Hey, you're looking good, Jimmy.
Hey, thank you. And also just remember, Jones Field was still some of the best pickup games that any of us ever played growing up.
Yep,
for sure.
Keep up the hard work, brother. We appreciate all your support of YSN and for you constantly just giving us thumbs up. It means a lot, man.
No problem, guys.
Thanks,
Take care.
Jimmy.
Great talking to you, boys.
Thanks, Jimmy.
There he goes, Jimmy Powers. You want to talk? I mean, that's the cool thing about what we've in 3 years. And I hate to pat us on the back a little bit.
No, go ahead.
But man, like we went from 4 schools and broadcasting and pumpkin patches that week 1 in football to we've got people in St. Louis calling us on our show. Like it's starting to. We have 49 out of the 50 states. North Dakota, I hate your guts. Like it's the only state we don't have yet. People in Hawaii, like that was the coolest. I got a picture from someone who was watching YSN on the beaches of Hawaii, and it was like, dude, this is sweet. Cool. You know, so thank you guys for all you do. Thanks to the fans like Jimmy that they're calling in and supporting us wherever you go, because really everybody, Youngstown is an area that's very similar to Pittsburgh. Like Pittsburghers, you run into each other everywhere, right? You know, if you're wearing a Steelers shirt or a Pirate shirt, Youngstown's the same way. If you wear like a Cheney shirt and somewhere in Texas, somebody's got to go Youngstown Cheney, go Cowboys. You know what I mean? So I that's what I love most about what we do is we're giving people a platform and a lifeline back home. You know what I mean? And everybody loves their hometown.
Right.
We've already noticed in the short time that we've been here, like we've heard from people we would never expect to listen to the show. Is listening and saying how great it is.
Sending in questions.
Zach was at a shootout, right? Or
Zach went to an open gym up at Malone on Wednesday night, and a former player from Wellsville.
Yeah.
Justin Miller, little shout out to Justin Miller.
Yeah,
he's a great player, great player. And he said, I watch your dad's show.
It's crazy.
And that's it's funny because mostly there's always a demographic for each show, right? That's the whole plan. We don't look for a certain type. Like, we don't typecast our fans. We get people that are 10 years old. You had Riccatelli on.
Yeah, Dominic Riccatelli.
We have Dominic Riccatelli who brings
promos.
cutting a Hulk Hogan promo, brother. It was fantastic. So I love the fact that you've got fans everywhere you go, and everybody's jumping on the YSN train. Great call from Jimmy.
Jimmy's great. And Jimmy's doing his thing down there in St. Louis. He's all in the, does
he work for a college?
Communications position.
Yes.
For college.
Yeah, and he's all in. I mean, man, if you follow his stuff online, like his weight loss stuff, he's killing it.
Yeah.
He's all in. So I love it. Love it when he calls in. Next question, my friend.
Speaking of people from other places, this is Tom from Florida. Tom's been pretty good to us.
Yeah, he's sending some questions. Tom Craig.
I really like this question. Did you alter your tactics of motivation? I know myself that if coach challenged me or in some way said I couldn't do something, it was when he was at his best and he played better pissed off. Would you rather be Bobby Knight or Dean Smith?
I'd probably rather be Dean Smith.
Well, you know what I mean.
But I was Bobby Knight.
Right.
Right. I think early in my career, I think you would say this, that I was even more crazy. I calmed down. I mean, I had my moments as we got older, but it wasn't the same. I was crazy 24/7.
Yeah, you picked your battles towards the end.
Yeah.
Right.
But you know what I did do over time was recognize that not every kid's the same.
Yeah.
You know, so you could get into this guy over here, but this one over here you might have to pat on the butt and compliment more.
Psychologically, every kid's different.
Every kid's different.
And there are kids that, like, if you light a fire, we've had parents come to us and say, you know, you have to challenge him. You have to, and we're like, you don't know your kid. Because when we challenge him, he shrinks.
Yep. Yeah, he shuts
you know,
down.
And then there's other kids, we tell them that, you know, you got to give us more. You're not doing it, and they go crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I clearly had Bobby Knight moments.
Sure.
You know, and I knew that, and I was hard on some kids, and really, I was probably hardest on the kids that I loved the most. You know, I was in their face and screaming.
Well, we always talked about if you stop talking.
I was just going to ask that question.
Stop screaming.
Yeah.
We have no expectation for you the minute we stop screaming.
Right.
Personally, as a player, I'd rather play for Bobby Knight.
Really?
Yeah, only because, you know, I had different high school coaches. We had talked about this on one show. High school basketball at Hubbard from 7th grade through 12th grade for me, we had 5 different head coaches in 6 years.
Yeah.
Tom Craig, who sent that question, he had 6 different head coaches in 6 years.
Right.
I mean, that's insane. You didn't even know who the coach was going to be. And then the other thing is you're trying to, you start over. You got to prove yourself again. And, you know, I played for different coaches. Anthony DeCello, he was Bobby Knight. I mean, he made me look like a saint.
Oh, boy.
And then we had other coaches who were more calm, more passive. Just a guy who pushed me. I mean, Anthony DeCello, I'd take him any day of the week. He was in your face. He was screaming. I mean, at that point, he put his hands on us a little bit. Nothing crazy, but, you know.
Sure.
And I'd play for him any day.
And
I'd run through a wall for him.
For sure. And I think that goes back to something we talked about earlier. I mean, you need your assistant sometimes to be the calm person.
Right,
you
right.
Know what I mean?
And we were good with that.
Yeah.
You know, I never had a problem. I didn't need to be liked by the kids, although I think that we were liked.
Right.
And, you know, as time went on, I pat kids on the butt. You know, that's one of my trademarks, is I hit them on the butt.
And it got to the point where we had to have a conversation. We were like, do you think we should stop doing that?
That's what I was going to say.
You're afraid
you know,
maybe the parent sees you smack
as
the kid
years
on the butt.
went on, it went like, well, you know.
Things change.
Things change. And DJ, funny story is I coached JV girls for a year.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, you can't hit them on the butt. You know, and I'm like, and I didn't. I made it the whole season without hitting them. But when I was growing up,
that
was a sign of respect. I mean, you made a shot, you slap them on the butt. You didn't think twice about it. And, you know, sometimes when I was a little fired up, I might hit you a little harder, you know, as a coach.
Here's one for you.
Yeah.
What was the number one takeaway that you learned about yourself in those 20 years as a person and as a coach?
I'm a winner.
I knew I was a winner from the day I was
You
born.
knew it from then? I don't know. I think that's what, for me, I think that's like, I think everybody has a little bit of doubt no matter what you're doing.
Right.
And then when you get one good year and then it becomes 5 good years and then it becomes 10 good years, you're looking at yourself like, all right, we did it right. And you feel pretty good
I think
about
I would say it justified what you did. Like, you know, people can question you. I had an old teacher coach out at Champion tell me one time, you could teach 5 days a week. And not that it doesn't matter, but it matters. But you're going to be judged every Friday night.
That's it.
And you think about that, you know, what's more important? We started at Champion my first year. We had a great team. We were 8-0, ranked top 5 in the state. Literally, I'd walk into the bank and people were like, Coach, jump in front of me. We lost a game. That all ended.
See ya.
You know, it's
Find a different bank.
I think I think what the one thing with winning did was it justified what we did.
For sure.
Love it. We have a call on the YSN hotline. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, this is Tiffany Webb. I'm calling from the Youngstown Phantoms Youth Hockey Association.
Okay, go ahead.
This is mine. I asked Tiffany to call us.
Okay. Scared me. I thought I owed money for tickets or something.
She's doing a fundraiser. You got to give her $50. Thanks for calling in, Tiffany. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about the Phantoms and maybe how you got involved.
Yeah, sure. So the Youngstown Phantoms Youth Hockey Association is a youth hockey program here in the Valley. We have roughly 100 families from all across probably 5 to 7 different counties. So as far as Lawrence County up in PA, lots of kids from the Mahoning Valley, kids from Kimball. And, you know, we have a program that starts with kids as young as like 5 years old all the way up into their teenage years. So my little guy has been, oh, he's not so little anymore. He started on the ice when he was about 4, and we lived in the Pittsburgh area, moved here about 5 years ago and joined the Phantoms organization. And, you know, this area for hockey is quite different than the Pittsburgh area. You know, hockey is very in your face in Pittsburgh, not so much here. So we're always looking to bring new kids into the program. I became president roughly a year and a half ago. The president before me had resigned, and I love to be involved. I'm passionate about youth hockey, very passionate about being there and helping. It's a tough job, but it's a fun job. And we are actually in the middle of our tryouts, even amongst all of this COVID, doing our best to try and make hockey work for our kids in a very safe way and get them back out on the ice. A lot of them have been itching to get back out there.
For sure.
So,
Tiffany.
It's not all, yeah, go ahead.
Tiffany, let me jump in. Jeff Rizzo, co-host with Brian. How many teams do you expect to have this year?
So I will be honest, we are seeing across the entire league. So we play in the Pittsburgh Amateur Hockey League. We're the only Ohio team that plays in that league. And we're seeing low numbers across the board. So it's looking like we are going to have some small teams, but we will have 2 sport level teams, which is ages 9 and 10, 2 Pee-wee teams, which are ages 11 and 12. And we are hoping that we will have a Bantam team this year, which is ages 13 and 14. So we are currently looking for players at all of those age levels. We are in the middle of tryouts, so you can go to our website and register if your child is looking to play. And then we also have our 8 and younger, so that's ADM. And we will probably end up with roughly 50 to 60 kids in that ADM group, and they'll be broken up probably in just 3 different teams based on their skill levels. So, smaller numbers this year, but still doable. So, yeah.
I'm gonna piggyback on that question, or the answer actually that you gave. What advice? When we started hockey 3 years ago with my son, and we had no idea what we were doing. I mean, it wasn't a sport that I grew up with, and he was skating. He saw a flyer, and there's an intimidation factor for us that, the equipment, how do you learn to skate, how do you get involved? What advice would you give to a new player looking to start hockey?
Yeah, sure. So I will echo that. It is overwhelming. I've seen the parents come in just with their eyes kind of bugged out, like, wow, I have no idea what I'm doing. The best thing you can do is reach out. So if you go to our website, it's phantomsyouthhockey.org. All of the contact information for all of the board members is out there. We are all happy to talk to anybody and answer any questions. But the best way to truly get started in hockey, so we've got 2 really great options. Twice a year, there is always a Try Hockey Free Day. It's usually a Saturday morning. And what Try Hockey Free Day is, you sign your kid up. It's free. And then we come out to the rink. We operate out of Deep Freeze out there in Boardman. And we have gear that we will suit up your kid. The basics, they will all for sure get a helmet and gloves. Full gear, just kind of depends on their comfort level. We'll put a stick in their hands, and then we have coaches out there on the ice, and it's really just kind of getting them on the ice and seeing, like, hey, is this something that you think you might be interested in? Mm-hmm. And it's no obligation. It's free to do. After that, if your kid is like, yeah, I think it's fun, there's a program called Little Pen, and it's run through the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we hold 2 sessions a year, one in the fall, one in the spring. And what that program is you sign your kid up, and basically you're paying for the ice time. So I believe you get 10 sessions, roughly $200. But then you get outfitted in the gear head to toe. You get the helmet, you get the shoulder pad, you get the pants, you get all the gear that you need with the exception of a neck guard and a mouth guard.
It's awesome because that's how Brennan started. I can remember when he got that box, how excited he was.
Yeah.
It's all in one box, and you're ready to go just from that.
Exactly. So it takes the thought process out of, oh my gosh, what does my kid need? Because it is thank you. And that is a huge savings. And I don't know about your son, but my son got a couple of years out of that gear because he was itty bitty when he started. Right. So an awesome and amazing way to get started. And then once your child, they can only give you the gear once for free through Little Pen. But at our organization, if your kid is still real little and not quite ready to move on from Little Pens, we will allow them to come out for another session. they won't get the gear again, but more than likely that gear is still going to fit them from that first session.
Right.
So they can continue to go out there and get on the ice and get more comfortable.
Right.
Tiffany, what's the average cost about for a kid to play for a season?
Sure. So it's again going to depend on the level, right? So ADM, though, our costs are roughly between $600 and $700 for a season. So season for ADM, which is 8 and younger, that season we usually get them started in September, and then they'll play and practice through March of the following year. So that's a pretty long season. That's usually 1 or 2 practices a week. And then, the travel schedule is a little bit different for the younger ones. It's not quite as intense as the older ones, but they do what are called jamborees, so that you go and it's usually a trip to play one team. Typically, you're playing a couple different teams and making one trip out of it. So really very affordable because we also offer fundraising opportunities and sponsorship opportunities. So a lot of moms and dads will be able to go to their employer and say, hey, will you sponsor my hockey team? And then that money comes right to your team, and, it can reduce fees, if you want to go to tournaments. Once you move up to the older levels, so squirt and above, so from 9 up to teenage years, the cost is running, it depends on how many kids are on the team and how many tournaments you want to do, all of those sort of things, but the range is roughly $1,500 to $2,000, and I know that's a large range. But that can be a lot of different factors. If you're a very high-end team and you're going to play all those extra tournaments. Right. But again, fundraising and sponsorship are always available. Last year, our teams, each team across the league probably had, roughly about $6,000 come off of their team budget. So we work really hard with the team to try and make sure these fundraising opportunities are there, because we do realize it is, one of the more expensive sports you can play. So we do everything we can to really help those families that, are on the fence because they don't think they can do it financially, to get them the resources they need to make it affordable for them.
For sure. And nothing is better than watching a bunch of 11-year-olds take over a hotel in New York.
Oh my God.
So the tournaments are great. I mean, we tear up the hallways and the pools, and it's awesome. I have a couple questions before we let you go. We talked a lot about COVID today and all the other in the high school sports. Where do you see that in hockey, and where's that going with youth hockey? If you have any insight to how the season's going to look?
Sure. So, I think right now it's kind of a waiting game. And I've been paying attention to what's happening, across the country. And there are some rinks that still aren't open. There are some rinks that opened and closed back down. I think that, right now youth hockey is kind of lumped in with all of the other contact sports because it is a contact sport. However, if you really think about it, our players, there is no skin-to-skin contact. I mean, they are covered head to toe with gear. They're wearing gloves. They're not touching each other's sticks. They're not touching each other's pucks. So I'm hoping that, as our, leaders kind of really dig into the individual sports themselves, that, they will loosen some of those guidelines a little bit for hockey. As an organization, we are, following all the social distancing. We are going around and marking all of the boards 6 feet so that when our kids are out there for practice, there's a visual reminder for them to be distant. And we're just kind of, going through the paces and hoping that we will be allowed to have a season. For now, it's just practices, but at the end of the day, practices are the most important anyway. Maybe not the most fun, but that's what builds the skill level. So, I think it's really up in the air. I think with the season really kicking off in the fall, when school's supposed to start back, that will truly define what our season is going to look like. If we see a big surge, it may just be a practice-only season, or we may be even limited there. So it's a great unknown right now, but we are remaining optimistic. And, from a financial perspective, these teams that are trying out and accepting positions, we have a refund policy in place, so nobody will be paying for a season, but they don't get to play in.
Yeah. Okay. And one observation before I ask my last question is one thing that's really cool with your organization is your association with the Phantoms, the junior team, and you get to see those guys a lot, and they come to a lot of your practices. So it gives those kids, a mentor, a role model right there, right on the rink with them, which a lot of programs don't have. Can you touch on that real quick?
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. So, yes, we share the same logo with the big Phantoms, the same colors, and we really do have a great partnership with them. So, especially our little ones, the ADM, the younger, and even some of the sports, they are given an opportunity to go out and be a junior starter. So what that means is they get to take all of their gear to the game, and at the beginning, when they announce the starting lineup for those Phantoms players, each, there will be a player to go out on the ice and be announced with them as a starting lineup, which is really cool. There are also opportunities to play scrimmages during the periods. There are a lot of Phantoms that are billeted by members in our hockey organization. So what that means is, these Phantoms players, you don't think about it, but a lot of them are teenagers. They're still in high school, but they come from all over the country, some even across the world. We've got kids from Russia. So when they come to play for the USHL Phantoms, they do some of the ways. So we have hockey families who billet them and they live with them, which is really cool for those hockey players, those young ones that have living with them. But then also it gives us the opportunity for those kids to come out to our practices, and they come out and work with our kids, and there's nothing greater than seeing their face light up because there's, big guys out there practicing with them and showing them. So it really is a great partnership. They have all kinds of different events that they come out for with us. So it's kind of cool for those kids. Sometimes NHL players, they're their idols, but they're kind of untouchable. These guys, they can see them. They know them by name. They have conversations with them. So it's a really great experience all around.
For sure. Okay, last question. I've made an observation over the last few years with hockey, and we talk about parents, and parents are crazy, but there's something different about hockey moms, that they are the craziest parents I've ever seen in any sport, and I'm pretty sure you're guilty of that also. What's going on with hockey moms? What's the passion for hockey with these parents?
Very excellent observation, I will say. And I've said this all along. My son has played baseball for a lot of years. I have, stepsons that play soccer and wrestle, and hockey moms are the whole different breed. Like, I don't know if it's something in our DNA or what it is, but, these are, these teams, these families, they're not just like hockey players. Like, they can be a extended family. You spend more time with your hockey teammates in a season than you do most of your family, if you think about it. Think about the time you see your aunts, uncles, cousins, and you're seeing these players and these moms twice a week for practice, 1 to 2 times a week for games, and then you add in the tournament. It's a very unique bonding experience, and you're like, we are a little crazy. We scream and yell and cry and cheer, and we feel the same ups and downs as all of the other parents when it's their kid out there on the ice. So there's nothing like it. I love being a hockey mom. I love sharing the passion for hockey between hockey families. So it's a great time. We are a unique bunch of women, that's for sure.
All right, thank you for your call. We appreciate it. If people want to get to it, last time they want to get their kids signed up for hockey, maybe for the first time, or just learn more about your program, where do they go?
Yeah, so they should go to our website, which is phantomsyouthhockey.org. And if they click on the board information, they will find all of our emails and phone numbers. We are more than happy to talk to anybody interested. Brian, thank you for the invite today. So I'm glad that you reached out to me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Tiffany. Good luck this season. We'll be at the Deep Freeze. I'm sure we'll see you a bunch of times.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, Tiffany. Awesome interview. I mean, first off, that caught me by surprise, because sometimes we get callers, because we have the one line here.
Yeah.
So we get prank callers from our show and post show, and Usually no, but I was like, wait a minute, what is this? I thought I was gonna get hit up for a fundraiser. I was like, what's going on here?
How many female callers do you get? Do you get a lot?
It's probably around 10-15%.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Similar. I mean, our demographics in the female category probably from. I mean, you talked about the moms out there.
Yeah.
They love
It's
YSN,
crazy.
but they won't call in.
Right.
Right. But we get the instant messages on Facebook. We get all kinds of stuff. We get emails. Emails is where it gets really hairy because those are the Karens that come out because they don't want to call us directly. They want to make sure that they get everything out there and you talk about fake profiles. We have a few of those.
And if you take the time to write something, you're getting everything in it.
We got punched in the eye a couple times. The worst one, and I guess you guys can relate, is we don't try to get names wrong, but like let's for instance in baseball, like we get a lineup card. And these coaches should be doctors. Like, it's not even legible sometimes.
Right.
So they get all over the announcers, and I just want to be like, listen, I do the best I can. The coaches, and this isn't a knock on the coaches to get the numbers wrong because they're not always thinking, I got to get the lineup. They're thinking about winning the game, So I don't want to pass the buck, but it's not always our fault. We do the best we can. But if we get your name wrong, it's not on purpose. A lot of our kids don't. This isn't besides myself. There's no full-time employees here. These are people that just
DJ. We had banquets.
Oh yeah.
So early on in my career, you did announce every kid. They'd come up individually. They'd get their award, and you would have to say something nice about each kid.
Oh.
Well, after one banquet, the parent was pissed because I didn't say enough nice things about their kid. So guess what? We never announce kids anymore.
Yep.
Ever.
Yeah.
So we went 15 years and just said, talk about the team. Done.
One bad apple
One
spoils
bad
a
apple,
bunch.
and because we didn't say enough things about their child.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
At least with what you're saying is you're not doing it on purpose. You know what I mean? You're trying to do it right. Jeff never knows the name of somebody, and it's not because he just doesn't care.
Right.
So like we would be like, this kid, what kid are you talking about? This kid from Wellsboro, this kid from Latonia or whatever. He called the head coach of Springfield, Steve France, more times than he called him Steve French, just because he couldn't remember his. I get
Didn't matter.
I do.
It didn't matter.
Steve France. I'm like Steve French, right? That's what you're saying.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess that's
Steve, right? His name is Steve.
Steve.
It's
France.
It's
one of them.
It's crazy. Like, and it's not that we don't take our job seriously. It's just like sometimes there's not
with
enough
kids.
Oh,
parents are waiting for
parents
that.
are crazy.
Well, and one of the points that was made, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but one of the points, well, my kid is looking to get recruited, and if you can't pronounce his name right, listen, they're not looking at his name.
Right.
They don't care if his name is Pierre or Peter or what.
Right.
They're looking at his number. They're looking at his swing, his whatever they're looking at.
And if you're an influence to whether or not your kid gets recruited, your kid's in trouble.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. I mean, we want to be. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
hopefully,
we want to
but-
be, but they're not writing down. Okay, YSN got the kid's name wrong.
Right.
He needs
First
to
of
make a name
all,
for himself.
You're doing them a great service by broadcasting the game.
Yeah.
Otherwise, those kids, there's no broadcast.
There's no exposure, right?
There's no exposure.
That's the thing now is you look at. I mean, we've covered. It'll be 300 games at Scene Park over the last month, and otherwise, I mean, you're getting a 30-second soundbite at 11 o'clock, and that's it.
Right.
These kids have an opportunity, and they love us. I'm not trying to knock anything, but like they've got an opportunity to go back and watch their games.
Yeah.
To where baseball, there's no like, is it huddle that you guys have?
Yeah.
There's no huddle for baseball.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's huddle for football, huddle for basketball, and somewhere along the line, it gets completely cut off at baseball and softball. So
DJ, just so you know, we never used huddle.
Really?
I was the only person that watched the film, and we would show little blips to the kids because I always felt like the minute those parents get that video, they're gonna judge every kid.
Yeah.
And it's total bullshit.
Yeah,
we didn't allow parents in practices. That's pretty standard.
Yeah.
We had a couple parents who said, why don't you? A matter of fact, one of our best athletes in McDonald's history, Matias Taiello, and I'm not ashamed to say this, he went to JFK his freshman year because I didn't allow his dad to come to practices. And he goes to JFK.
Well, it might have been other things, but that was the name.
Well, it was what they said.
Right.
He ends up transferring back his sophomore year, and I love Matias. I mean, we have a great relationship, and his dad called me up and said, I'm sorry. I get it now.
Yeah.
Because if you go to practice, you're looking at every other kid. You're not looking at your own kid.
Right.
Yeah.
So I always felt like Huddle or Crossover and all these, online video places, the parents would be watching a video going, Brian turned the ball over twice.
Right.
You should be playing ahead of him. I said, it's not worth it.
That's an interesting talk. We'll get into technology and coaching after we take this break. So let's put that. I also want to talk about scoreboard. You said something really interesting today, and it goes back to a conversation we had a few weeks ago about looking at the scoreboard and seeing the differential. Like, how do you coach that anymore? Because
we keep trying to score more.
That's it. And I want to talk about that
We will.
because you're one of the few that will actually come out and say, like, I care about what my kids do. If you can't keep up, I'm sorry.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
Not my problem.
we'll talk about that in a little bit. We're also taking your calls on the YSN hotline, 330-886-0813. More questions with the FCP boys when we return.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
I'm feeling pretty good about myself, like I'm living the dream. Platform shoes, straight down the street. It's gonna get hot in here, I hope you can handle the heat.
Over the years, you watched us grow, and as we've done, so has the Myers Family Insurance team.
Thanks to all of you who have trusted our families to help you with your Medicare needs.
Myers Family Insurance looks forward to helping you now for years to come, so call our family today and remind them how cute we are.
Myers Family Insurance continues to be the area's resource for all your Medicare and retirement needs. Call today, 330-286-3044.
They say American craftsmanship is making a comeback. Of course, at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, it never went away.
People are floored by Baird Brothers' authentic hardwood floors. They stare at our stairs and adore our doors. Baird Brothers reflects 3 generations of family craftsmanship. Visit our huge in-stock selection in person or at BairdBrothers.com.
Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is here, so it's all hands on deck to make sure your plans still meet your needs for 2020.
Call us today.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Running Point. DJ Oakley on this side. On the other side, Brian Higgins, Jeff Brazil, the host of Full Court Press on YSN. Your next show comes out next Friday.
July 31st.
Any previews to the next show? Do you got anything?
Yeah, we got a couple. We got a couple good interviews. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jimmy Francicelli's going to be on.
Awesome.
Yeah, and you know what? It's going to be a different interview. They think, people are going to think he's coming on to talk about McDonald basketball. We'll talk about that, but he's going to take a different angle. Something that he's talked about before online. And
he has some challenges in his life, and he wants to
Awesome.
put him on air, which we think is great.
We love Jimmy, and then we're going to have the golf pro from Mill Creek Park.
Brian's on.
We're actually going to the clubhouse. We're going to make a trip out there.
Oh, this is awesome.
Talk about golf and, his experiences. And I'm sure, some of the players he's seen, high school kids and everything else.
Yeah, we got a great relationship with Mill Creek, so that's awesome.
We're going to name 2 new team members, not 1 this time. So,
oh, boy.
Yeah, we figured we double dose.
We're going to do a little diversity on our roster. We're going to have a couple female players this time.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So we're ready to go. We're ready to go.
All right. I already do tune in, but now I'm excited to tune in because I think I know where this is going.
Speaking of the show, though, I want to just say, if this is terrible, this 3 hours, this is still Running Point. So this isn't full court.
Right, we're not the blind.
if everybody loves this 3 hours, this is full court.
We're going to have to look at the numbers, but I got to say, next Friday's open in case you guys want to come back. I'm just saying, 3 hours is tough. We talked about 3 hours.
3 hours is crazy. I don't know how you guys do it. I mean, we do segments, so it's a little bit easier. We get in and out a little bit. But and we've actually, when we were doing our show, we're like, man, we're running long.
Right.
And it'd be like an hour and 20 minutes.
We didn't know if we'd be able to put an hour on. And then now we don't know how to cut it down.
Like we don't know how to shut up sometimes. But here, 3 hours, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think kind of going along with what we said in the opening segment, once sports comes back, I think we'll be completely fine.
Right.
Yeah.
But man, the legs are getting tired from tap dancing. And
let's talk about COVID again.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think they come here to get away from COVID, and here we are sitting there talking about COVID.
But what are you going to do when you talk about sports? That's where we're at.
Yeah, that's life.
Before we left DJ, we were talking about score.
Yeah.
So let's talk about score. Let's put it out there.
So you look at it, and there's a fine line. And it's a blurred line now to every sport, to where you look at the scoreboard and you go, how much is too much? And there's one side that says, hey, stop me. That's why you play defense. And there's another side that says, it's all about sportsmanship. It's all about this. There's 2 different mindsets. Your mindset is stop me.
Listen, first of all, this idea of going over 100 points is like, you score 99. You're okay, but God forbid you score 101.
Yeah.
There were a couple years we had some teams
130 against Middle Ridge that year.
133. There were a couple teams that we've had throughout the years.
Is that a tattoo somewhere? 130.
We got. That was the one we got in trouble.
That was one of the ones that people bitched about. But and like Brian had touched on earlier, if you beat a team 110 to 90, they're pissed. People are fans. You scored 100 points. But if you beat a team 80 to 35, there's not that much complaining. Mm-hmm. I never cared. We were never out to embarrass kids. It was never our goal. But what am I supposed to tell a kid not to shoot?
Yeah.
Don't make the shot?
I mean, there was times.
Turn the ball over? You give them the ball and let them shoot. Our district semifinal game this year, Lowellville, and they had a couple kids that acted like punks with us. Lowellville was upset because Zach scored a hoop with probably like 15 seconds left. They pressed us, which we were up by. The game was over. Well, why are you pressing us?
Yeah.
If the game's over, why don't you hold the ball?
Yeah.
The possession before.
Yeah.
Why did you score? And then they press us, and Zach drove through. He shoots a layup.
Yeah, we're not pressing anyone.
Yeah, we didn't press you.
You could sit in the half court and hold the ball if you want.
But then after Zach scores, they have a kid come down, shoot a layup. Buzzer. Bzz, he scores a layup before the buzzer. And all I hear about after the game is, how dare you let Zach take that shot? How dare I let Zach? Look, you're pressing me. Start with that. Second of all, you had a kid take a shot after that. Yep. Why didn't you hold the ball after that? You want to talk to me about sportsmanship? Like, that's what I don't get. And I've said this before. Coaches in general, the ones that I've come across, they're hypocrites. I love Bug Thompson. We've said this before from Wellsville. Bug is one of our favorites by far. There's no bullshit with Bug. If I beat him 150 to 10, he'd go in the locker room and tell his kids they need to get better.
Yeah.
We got beat once or twice.
Not 150 to 10.
No, I mean we got beat by St. Thomas Aquinas in the district final game.
Right.
They beat us good. They put it on us, and he left his starters in. I never said a word. I went to the lockers and we got to get better.
Yeah.
I mean this is the bar. We need to get better.
And I think isn't that the goal of sports, is to learn a little bit about
I'd be
life?
embarrassed, but wouldn't you be embarrassed if a team took it easy on you?
A little bit.
I'd be embarrassed.
I mean, you look at it. If you don't know, I think that's a bigger problem. But like you talk about, sports is supposed to prepare you for life, to learn how to win, learn how to lose, do all that stuff, and obviously be a diversion from every day. However, when you leave sports, as you guys know, when you enter real life, like there's no like score clock that stops or you get your ass beat.
Right.
So like you have to learn how to lose those games, and hopefully this is the problem I have now, and you guys might be able to tell me I'm completely crazy, but if we got beat by 40 in football when I was in high school, or beat by 10-run rule in baseball, you hung that on your locker, and you did push-up and or whatever you had to do mentally to make sure that never happened again.
Yep.
And now it's just like, it is what it is.
No, your parents are going to call the superintendent and say, "Don't let them beat my kid."
How dare you?
I mean, that's ridiculous.
We had superintendents calling our superintendent, complaining about scores.
And actually, Ron talked a little bit to us whenever we came in here, a couple months ago. People don't always see what you're doing behind the scenes either. There's times where, like, we're trying to get a kid, he's struggling shooting.
Yep.
We know he's a 45% shooter. He's been at about 30% the last 3 games. So we're going to let him shoot in the fourth quarter because it doesn't mean as much because we're up 20 points. And then if he makes a couple in a row, he takes that momentum to the next game. And that might win you the next game, not caring about whether you won by 20 or 30 the game before. We're worried about that kid getting better, trying to win a district championship. It's always a goal in something. We're not trying to embarrass you as an
In general, our rule was we were going to leave our starters into the 4-minute mark of the fourth quarter.
Right.
There were a few occasions where it was just so blown away that it wasn't worth the risk of somebody getting hurt. But in general, we're going to leave them and we're going to go from there. And if you piss me off, we're going to leave them longer, quite honestly. And it happened.
And there'll be times you're like, should I pull it off? And I'm like, no, put it on.
I would turn to my coaches and go, what do you think? Nope, leave it on.
And I'll also say this might be the first or second time you see a team. You might see them in Struthers in the districts.
Yeah.
If we put it on them right now, we're going to beat them in Struthers because they don't think they can beat us.
Yeah.
We just tore you up. So yeah, you're right. Get better. Use it as motivation. But we're gonna demoralize you to the point where we know we're gonna just walk on the court and beat you.
I mean, just on the flip side of that, we were playing Crestview years ago and we were pounding them. I mean, just absolutely pound them. And we started holding the ball like in the third quarter because I didn't want to pound them. They had good kids, great coach, great guy. We're holding the ball, telling the kids they got to make 5 passes, hold it. And their coach came to me. He said, "Play. Just play." Because it wasn't fun for them.
Yep.
If your kid averages 20 points a game, all of a sudden he really doesn't even get the ball. I'm talking about the other team, not our team. He doesn't get the ball the whole second half. That's not fun for him.
No.
And listen, stats, the most important stat is winning the game. With that said, kids want to achieve. They want to have individual achievements. There's nothing wrong with that. When coaches or fans or whoever says there's something wrong with that, I completely disagree.
So when you look, you're on the sideline, and do you look at the clock? I mean, do you look for the score, or you just coach your game, and however it comes out in the third, fourth quarter, it comes out?
I'm doing both, and the reality is, I rely on these guys. So what we had is if we had a staff of 4 people, including myself, we would talk at the beginning of the year, this is your role.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm what I'm doing. I'm calling the game.
Yeah.
You watch the clock. You keep track of the fouls. You keep track of their fouls.
Yeah.
There was little things like that. So a lot of times I turn to him because he's my right-hand man and go, what do you think? And he leave it on or sometimes pull it off.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it. I mean, I could be a pretty feisty guy. If a fan's spouting off to me, I may say, hey,
we're going to put it on
We're going to put it on. There was a year Zach had come around the screen against Sebring his sophomore year. It was 4 minutes left to go in the game, 5 minutes left to go in the game, and he got cut. I mean, he got fouled. They didn't call a foul, but he comes up. He's bleeding. He's got a gash, and he's bleeding down his face. They had a couple fans stand up and clap, and their assistant coach went out and gave a high five to the kid. That's fine. No problem.
It's not, though.
I've done stupid stuff as a coach and as a fan, but you're going to get pressed for the next 4 minutes.
Yeah. And what's crazy is more people will say something about that next 4 minutes than they would about.
They did. So they went on Yappy or whatever they call that shit, and they started spouting off about us. And here's what's interesting: they were saying that I left the game go the way it is so Zach could score more points. Now, needless to say, during that last 4 minutes of the game, or 5 minutes, whatever it was, Zach took one shot and scored 3 points. Braden Poole, the other great player, scored 8 points in those 4 minutes. Nobody said a word about Braden Poole.
Yeah.
Who Braden was a stud, 6'5", could do whatever he wanted. Nobody said a word about Braden Poole. All the Sebring people who went on Yappy did was talk about how I left Zach in the game.
Yeah.
That's how stupid people are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's seriously.
And it's everywhere. You don't want to point at just one place. And we hear it here. I mean, East Palestine was beat unbelievably. In football, it was 70-something to nothing, and they couldn't even finish the game because kids were getting hurt.
I remember that.
And you look at it, we didn't even address it because you look at it, nothing good comes from that at that point.
Right.
Because you're going to have one side say, hey, we beat you, and the other side say, why run the score up like that? If I'm on that football field, you're dragging me. And I'm close with Tony Foster, the football coach. I said, if I'm on that football field, you're dragging me off that field. Like, I would never forfeit a game willingly.
I agree.
It would you could beat me 100-0. I'm never leaving that football field. But when injuries happen, you don't have enough guys. It is what it is. Yep. Where the superintendents, I think, had to collaborate and say, we're done here. Yep.
Let me say this: as tough as we are, whatever, we never wanted a kid to get hurt. By no means. We never encouraged kids to hurt kids, or we never wanted to embarrass anybody, so to say. But we had our interest was with our basketball team.
And the other thing we got criticism for was keeping small benches.
Yes.
Because they were like, if you keep a larger bench, then you can put those last 4 kids. Last 4 kids didn't deserve to be on that varsity bench. We showed up 4 or 5 times a week in the summer, and those 8 kids showed up to 95% of them. I didn't see those other 4 kids. They don't deserve to be there. They're playing JV basketball until they learn they have to commit to our program, and then they can be on the varsity bench. So if my last 5 kids aren't Zach, but they're kids that can play, they're kids that can play because they showed up all summer long. You didn't see that.
Right. And I think that's a big misconception, too, as we talked about earlier in the show, getting into the locker room and seeing what happens there, seeing what happens at practice. A lot of parents don't know.
Clue.
They have no idea. They know what their son or daughter tells them at home at the dinner table. And let's be honest, a lot of those times, they're not going to break the bad news to their parents. You know what I mean?
Yes, exaggerations. And I get it. I was a kid. Let me say something else that I took a lot of heat for, is I was pretty open with the press. And people were like, how could you say that about Brian Higgins, the player? Well, I've said it to Brian 100 times previously. This was no big surprise. Like
it's
if I said we're not working hard enough,
you're not PC.
Yes, and I've said it to him in the locker room. But the thing people don't understand, talk about parents, is when a media member comes up to you and asks you after a game, they ask you 100 questions, 20 questions. They only write about a couple of them.
They're looking for a soundbite.
Yeah, so someone said at the end of a season, like, I didn't compliment the seniors. How do you know what the hell I did? I actually did. They didn't include it in the article, and that's okay. That's their job. I don't tell them how to do their job. But people would be like, you said Braden needed to be more aggressive.
He does.
Okay, he did. And listen, nobody lives it more than me as the head coach. I got to look in the mirror at the end of the day and look what I'm doing wrong. So I may say Braden needs to be more aggressive, but I'm also looking at how I failed. I absolutely dropped the ball on the last play in the regional semifinal. It was a horrible play. And I thought, they're going to focus on Zach. Zach's going to set a screen for Jake Portelease. He's having a good game. Jake's going to get a wide open 3 in the corner. It's going to work out perfectly. It did it. It looked like shit, and it fell apart. That's on me. I dropped the ball. I take responsibility.
But that's another part that people don't understand is you own that stuff.
Oh, own it 100%.
So a lot of coaches will own this. They don't. I wish that we had the ability to be how much time that coaches put into the craft, because you don't want your kids to fail. Other any coach worth his weight or worth his salt is not going to want his kids to fail. He's going to put time.
Let me say this, DJ, too. The fact that we had won so much, it added more pressure. We want to win more. We didn't want to lose. I've been around coaches who seem to be able to let it roll better. You know, they lose, a football coach loses on a Friday night, he's okay on Saturday. I give them 100% credit because I think that's part of the reason why I probably burned out quickly.
Right.
Is because if we lost on a Friday, I was almost physically sick.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that those other coaches, you know, I give them credit. You know, they're able to roll and they have those long careers. And you know, Marty Hill has been at Wyndham for 150 years, literally. I saw Marty Hill at a mall one time. It was on a Sunday, and he's like, I just got done working with the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And I'm thinking, holy smokes, he loves it.
Yeah.
You know, he loves it. You know, the Marty Hill, you know, Roy Sembach and Newton Falls. I mean, these guys, I give them all the credit in the world.
Can you name 3 things that you hate more than losing?
Oh, I can't imagine. Listen, I read a book in college, and what it does is it goes through the phases of your life. So you're born, you're dependent on your parents or whatever, and then you get to like 14, 15 years old, and they call it the gladiator stage, where you are just, you know, complete competitor or whatever. And they said at the end, there's like 8 or 10 stages, whatever. At the end, when you turn 40, 50 years old, you should have completed that, and you should have be able to draw on those when you need to. I've never left that stage.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to win in life. Like, that's who I am. And it's not about material things or anything of that nature, but I want to win in life.
Yeah.
I don't want to walk away and say, I could have done this better. We all say we could have done something better. But you know what I'm saying? I don't want to have those regrets. And I think that's one thing that my parents have passed to me. I don't know if you know, my wife was a great athlete.
Yes, I've heard.
I mean, she
awesome
was fantastic.
Stories. Yeah.
I mean, in my children, I mean, my in-laws, I mean, we're all people who work hard and strive to, you know, achieve success. And that's who we are.
Yeah.
It's that.
Would you rather have 5 kids on a basketball court that work hard, give it their all, and lose, or 5 kids that are lazy and win?
It's a tough one because at the end of the day, you're always judged by your wins and your losses.
Right.
You know, no one's. If you go 0-20 and you have great kids, even coaches. I mean, I've seen coaches. I'll say this name, Terry Coxon out of Champion, greatest guy in the world. Never swore. Great with the kids. Always prepared. Never drank. And they ran him out of town because he wasn't winning.
He didn't win.
He didn't win. Hear me? I'm a maniac. You know? Well, you could run me out of town, but
drinks, swears.
I don't.
You didn't do any of that either. But.
All of it. You know, I always say, I get 2 or 3, 4 phone calls in the summer from schools. You're interested in a job.
Yeah.
You know, and they knew who I was.
Yeah.
We talked all the time, though. If Jeff, the way he is,
Yeah.
and how crazy he is on the sidelines and jumping up and down and screaming, if he didn't win, he wouldn't have been
done.
He would have been gone.
The principal out of Champion, my first couple of years that I was coaching, he's a good guy, and he's a former basketball coach, ended up becoming a superintendent, Tom Harrison. He came to me one time, and he said, you know, if you're losing, you're probably losing your job. Like, if you're, you know, I said, well, thank God I don't lose, I guess. You know, or not much. But I get it. I get it.
But when we coach, though, you do appreciate those kids that grind.
You do.
You do.
Yes.
You know that they're going to run through a wall for you, and every time the ball goes up, you know you don't have to worry about that kid. He's giving you 100%.
If you were lazy, you probably didn't do very well in our program.
Right.
I guess lazy was a bad word. A kid, if you had 5 kids who you knew
moderate talent, but
could reach a potential, and they weren't getting there, would that bother? Even though you're winning, would that bother you to know that they're not getting?
That's the worst.
It's the worst, but I'll still take the win.
Yeah.
I'd rather win that game than lose. Right. You know, we've had those moments. We've had some of those teams that we thought, you know, they're winning, but they haven't committed.
And you know what? And most times those teams, though, when it came down to that big game, they lost that big game.
Yeah, they did. They did.
And we saw it coming.
Yeah, we would say that all the time. Like, it's coming. It's coming. They don't get it, but it's going to be.
You could see it.
Oh, no doubt.
Writing's on the wall.
And
no
like,
doubt. Practice is like they're not working hard enough in practice.
If you look at our team last year, besides Zach was phenomenal. You know, we had a lot of kid role players.
Grinders.
They're grinders. You know, and we knew when we got into that big game, they'd be fine because that's the way they play.
That's like a little bit different subject, but also those kids on this team this past year, they just wanted to win.
Yeah.
Like Parker, Brian's son, he didn't care about scoring. I mean, we basically told him, don't shoot.
He's not allowed to shoot.
Yeah, you know, just do. Okay, I'll do whatever it takes. Whereas other years we've won, and we've had kids who complained because they weren't getting enough shots. You know, who thought they were. At the end of the day, we wanted to win. I think that was priority. And honestly, I mean, that's how I live my life, to a fault.
Yeah.
To a fault.
Brian, you're in the hockey business now. I mean, obviously, you just had a caller on and talk about the Little Phantoms?
They're the Phantoms Youth Hockey.
Phantoms Youth Hockey. Okay. Yeah. So when you look at the way hockey's built, hockey's built on grinders.
Yeah.
Do you relate to that because of the way that you guys coach at McDonald, the grinding style? Is that something you can appreciate as your son goes into?
For sure. One thing that I loved about hockey as soon as my youngest son started getting into it was size doesn't really matter as much as other sports.
Right.
You know, like my son Parker played for McDonald. I mean, he was 5'6".
Yeah.
You know, in basketball, you're not going to be a great player unless you're a super. You know, unless you got the speed or hops or you can shoot the lights on. He couldn't do those things, so he had to be the guy that got the loose ball and stuff like that. Hockey's a little different. You see some small guys playing hockey. And the other thing that's really cool about hockey, and the reason I like it, is you can be a great athlete. If you can't skate, it doesn't matter.
Toast.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You can't take a football player and put him on skates the first time and he'll be okay.
Right.
Basketball, you might be able to do that. You might get a guy that can rebound. He's not going to dribble or shoot, but you might be able to put him in a role. You might take a basketball player that's fast and put him on a football field and he can fly up and down and be a wide receiver.
Right.
You know, in hockey, if you can't skate, it doesn't matter how good you are. Now, that's work. You have to work to skate.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's just like dribbling a basketball or shooting. You have to put the time in. You have to put the time in stick handling. You have to put the time in skating. To the point where, like, my son practices 2 to 3 times a week, and he goes to a trainer for that hour on the weekends. And it's because I can't tell him what to do.
Right.
I can't tell him use your edges. This is where your hips should be, or this is how your shoulders are. This is where your stick should lean, and stuff like that. I need someone to tell him because I don't know anything about hockey, but it's the work, and I love that because as coaches, you see that kid that puts that hour in, and you know he's a better player after that hour. And seeing it at 11 and 12, you make huge jumps when you see those kids that commit.
Let me jump in and say this. In general, there's very few kids having success nowadays that aren't working hard.
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't happen because there's so much out there for the kids, the trainers and the weight programs and all of that business, that if you're not working hard, I mean, almost every kid that's been first team all conference in basketball over the last 3-4 years have played AAUs at a pretty high level. Not just basic, they all have focused on basketball to some extent. It's not easy.
And it's a shame too, because like my son to be we talk about it all the time. We don't know what level we want him to play at. We moved him to Pittsburgh this year because that's the core of this community where you can go and play against kids that are higher level competition. So we're literally going to drive an hour for practice and an hour home so he can play in a program. They had 115 kids try out for 12U. You know what I mean? And that's just one program out of 7 or 8 programs around Pittsburgh. So we made that decision because we want to take him to the next level. But it's a lot of commitment. I mean, it's a 12-year-old that you're driving to Pittsburgh to play hockey. I mean, when you think about that in your head, it's kind of crazy and stuff like that. But that's what he wants, and that's what we're going to try to do. But I mean, you got to make that commitment if you're going to play at that type of level.
Not everybody's in that situation.
Not
everybody can afford
to be able to
it.
do
Not
it.
everybody has the time. And growing up, my parents would do the world for us, but they didn't have the money necessarily. Going to Westminster basketball camp was a big deal. Let alone $100 a week in training or something crazy. So not everybody has the opportunity, and I feel bad for that. But then you got to make your own opportunity. Then you better figure it out.
You see, we talked about Brian Tolnar and Mill Creek. Mill Creek put a deck rink in. There's a nice deck rink. So, they need to get those kids in Youngstown to that deck rink first. You know what I mean? Experience a hockey a little bit. Maybe put some rollerblades on. You're not wearing pads, and they don't have access to it. And then you're going to have to come up with programs that are going to be able to give them equipment. I mean, and then once you get that, you're going to have someone teach them how to play. I mean, it's a lot of work to start a new sport like that. Where basketball and stuff is a little bit, everybody's got a hoop. People can go and play.
Yeah, even but you got to find a gym though,
and you got to have a competent trainer.
You do.
Yeah, and then but like baseball, when we were growing up, we'd have whole teams, neighborhood teams. Like we would play Saul versus Hillview, and we would go to Jones Field and have a game. You don't see that now. It's 12 months. My 12-year-old in hockey can play 12 months of hockey right now.
Yes,
and that's scary.
And let me say this, DJ. I have an older daughter that did it with soccer, all around. Zach did it with basketball. Bethany did it with soccer. I'm not sure it's even worth it.
Right.
I mean, I'm not here to promote it or say it's worth it. We've had these conversations because his son's younger, and he'll say, what do you think? What do you think? You know, Brent was on the phone. Well, that's the conversation I had with Brent because his son was older. Yep. What do you think? What do you think? I don't know if it's worth it. You and I just talked during a break. I said, hey, take that money and put it in your kid's college fund. They'll end up going to Youngstown State for free anyways. Absolutely. You know, I don't know what the answer is.
Having said that, my kid's a shy kid, my younger kid. Parker was All-American. We knew he'd be fine. And he found hockey and the confidence he got by having that. My wife and I talk all the time. If I point at Jeff like he's my wife, kind of is. But like my wife and I talk all the time. If that was a tuba, we would be going to tuba lessons.
Yep.
Whatever
It doesn't matter.
Whatever gave him that confidence and self-esteem and makes him feel good about himself, we're going to invest in.
Yeah.
So if he's not playing video games and I'm driving to New Kensington for him to work out for an hour, that's what we're going to do. You know what I mean? You're always trying to do what's best for you.
I wouldn't change it.
It's all. I was just gonna.
There's a few
hold on.
little things.
I got a question for you. So it's tough to coach your kid, no matter where you're at, because the tendency for coaches that coach your kid is you want to be a little bit tougher on your kid than you are the rest of the kids. If you had to have, you've 20-year career, you laid your legacy. If you had to go back and sacrifice 20 years not coaching Zach, or 20 years and you had Zach every year, which one would you do, and which one would be more challenging?
Wait, I could have Zach on the team every year?
Every year.
Oh my God, I'm taking Zach every year.
Yeah, but you're not coaching him.
Oh,
right?
I'm not coaching him.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you now. Because I was going to say that would be, I'll take him. Can I add Braden and Matt's?
Well, that's the thing is like there's some sacrifices that coaches make that coach their kid that really nobody sees.
Well, first of all, everybody thinks the coach's kid gets favored. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
It's probably the opposite of the majority.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of have, we don't talk about basketball all that much. Zach went to an open gym up at Malone College on Wednesday, and he came home and said, how'd it go? He go, good, okay.
That's it.
You know, was it Jeff fun? Yeah. And he said, I'm out of shape. You know, and he practices every day. It's just, it's a different, because the kids aren't playing now, you know, 5-on-5. But there's nothing I would change. There's little things I would change.
Yeah, you make mistakes.
You made little things, but overall, the big picture, I wouldn't change it. I'd still travel with my daughter for soccer. I'd still travel with Zach. I'd still coach Zach. There's nothing I would really change. I think that, you know, there's moments. Zach and I were in the gym every day for years.
And butting heads a lot of times.
Well, there was a few times where he'd come home and, like, I'd scream at him in the gym, just him and I, like, you're not here to work. I'm not wasting my time. And, you know, all that. He'd come home and tell my wife. And, you know, actually recently, within the last couple of years, I don't go to the gym with them. Outside of team, I didn't go to the gym with them. Anthony Pugh went with them.
Yeah.
You know, Clockwork Athletics people, the best trainer around. Everybody else thinks they're the best trainer. Anthony is the best trainer.
Okay.
Anthony, sponsor us. But, you know, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it. My everything, or almost everything I have in my life almost came from basketball.
Yeah.
You know, I met my wife through basketball. I got my job at Champion because of basketball. I played with this guy. And, you know, we still see each other regularly because of basketball. If
we
didn't
would have
see
been
each
friends
other,
anyway, but
not
to
the
this.
same.
Yeah.
You know,
That and YSN.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we wouldn't be on the show. We wouldn't be as famous as we are if we weren't great
That's
coaches
true.
on YSN. So I wouldn't change it.
Listen, I destroyed my kid.
Yeah.
I mean, and
He destroyed his kid.
And we had the conversation before every season, like, you're going to get it the worst. You have to walk a different line than the other kids, you know, because you're my kid. And my kid was no superstar. He was a grinder. He went freshman, 2 years at JV, 1 year varsity. He was that kid. But I beat him up, you know, and looking back on it, you know, I probably could have been a little easier on him, but we were coming home from the district championship, and he Snapchatted a picture to me of him holding the net, and he said, thanks for all you did for me. And, like, for me, that was it. That's all I needed. It was all worth it. You know, all that. He knew where he fit, that grind, all that yelling, that poor kid at midnight, I'd walk into his room to have a conversation about what he did wrong. You know, he never got a break during basketball season. But it was all worth it. He recognized it. I recognized it was great.
Same kind of thing. Is there a moment that you look back and you say, this made it all worth it?
You listen, Zach had the individual accolades. I mean, he's going to go down as one of the all-time greats. There's no question about that. But the thing I'm most proud of is the team success he had.
Yeah.
I mean, he won 80% of his games, and he led the team in scoring. So it's not like he won, you know, that he went 5 and 15 and he scored 20 points a game. I mean, they had a great career. But let me tell you a quick story about Parker. I got to tell you this story.
Absolutely.
So in 7th grade, they're good. I mean, Zach could score 30 points a game.
Yeah.
You know, they can't keep up. We're at Springfield.
Yeah.
We're at Springfield. Springfield's good. And it's a back and forth contest. I don't want to say Zach was much of our offense.
Yeah. He was all of our
He was our offense. He fouls out. The only time in his career he ever fouled out of a game, he fouls out. There's like a minute or two left in the game.
Yeah.
And it is back and forth. I mean, it's a close game. Zach's down. We're like, oh, man, we're done. Because we don't know how we're going to score. We're down 2 points with about 10 seconds left to go.
We're actually down 5. We actually got a couple buckets
Right,
or a
we
free
came
throw
back,
or something.
right.
We're down 2, right?
We're down 2. And the coach called a timeout. I must have drew up a play. I don't remember how it all evolved, but it ends up in Parker's hands.
Not on purpose.
Not on purpose. With 3 seconds left to go, literally, and he chucks a 3, and he buries it.
Yeah.
Buries it. We storm. Him and I stormed the gym. It stormed the floor. You know, we're jumping up and down. We're jumping up and down. And, you know, it was a great moment. You had, like, tears in your eyes.
It was
and
great.
Parker had tears in his eyes. It was a great moment. And we go in the locker room, and Parker's got these tears in his eyes, and I look at him because I'm just so blunt, me. And I go, Parker, listen, that was a great shot, but don't let that be the highlight of your life.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a 7th grade basketball game, and I love the fact you made it, and we're excited for you and all that. So it was a couple years ago. Parker was down, and we were eating dinner, and he said, I still remember when you told me that. And I believe it now. Like, you know, although it's so important, I believe it now. So sports has been a huge part of our lives.
Yeah.
You know, but Parker was valedictorian.
Yeah.
Zach had a
That's
4.0.
awesome.
But Zach just wasn't valedictorian because he didn't take one class that he needed. You know, but he's 4.0.
Yeah.
You know,
That's so much more important.
So our kids are going to be fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's the sports and the work ethic have led to the other parts of their lives. So, you know, sports have been great.
One of the funny stories off that shot was Zach and Parker. You know, they rag each other all the time.
Yeah.
So they're always pounding each other. And I don't know, maybe it was a sophomore or junior year, and Zach was like, "You made one shot your whole life, and that's all we hear about." So like Parker used that for the next 5-6 years.
Milk that cow.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back with the FCP boys. And to wrap up the show, 2:30 hour, make sure you head over to gberbickfarms.com and make sure there's some meat on your grill this weekend. Good weather. Make sure that the family is eating the best meat around. It's gberbickfarms.com. Be back after this.
They say American craftsmanship is making a comeback. Of course, at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, it never went away.
People are floored by Baird Brothers' authentic hardwood floors. They stare at our stairs and adore our doors. Baird Brothers reflects 3 generations of family craftsmanship. Visit our huge in-stock selection in person or at bairdbrothers.com.
Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is here, so it's all hands on deck to make sure your plans still meet your needs for 2020.
Call us today.
Hey, my Ohio friends, it's Mike Ditka, and I know great talent and heart when I see it. I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are average real estate agents, then there are true champions. Kelly Warren is one of those champions, and you have her right there in your own backyard. Kelly outmarkets and outsells every agent in the Mahoning Valley. If Kelly can't sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to, Kelly will buy it. Get your home sold. Call Kelly Warren today at 717-2689 or go online to kellysold.com and start packing.
You can feel it. Baird Brothers traditional craftsmanship. You can see it. Baird Brothers timeless style. And you can afford it. And find everything at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is real hardwood, yet beautifully affordable. Floors, moldings, interior doors, bar rails, and stair parts. All within your means and without a care. Start at BairdBrothers.com. You have made it. Your home.
Teams work hard and give it all they've got. Well, so does ours, because 21 Sports and YSN give you extra effort when covering local sports. 21 Sports and YSN, winning coverage of our Valley's teams. 21
Good evening,
News.
and thank you for joining us.
Let's get right to our top
More
story
experienced
tonight.
reporters.
A new Wilmington restaurant.
GM Lordstown.
Telling more local stories
We'll look at
Baby
efforts
boy
to
is
curb
recovering from a broken.
around our
Good
valley.
afternoon. We are here in Youngstown, right up.
Because you expect
Important for everyone. No place like home.
more local news.
In Mercer County
before
Court.
they become life-threatening.
21 News is our Valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in the Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
And welcome to the final segment of Running Point here today. Hope everybody's going to have a great weekend. And again, if you're looking to throw some steaks on the Barbie, make sure you, there's no better, well, it just tastes better. Let's just put it that way. gburbickfarms.com. Head over there. Make sure Greg knows YSN sent you. Guys, it has been awesome, 2.5 hours so far. But one of the things we always ask, and I don't think we've taken your kind of temperature on this yet, is competitive sports. When is it okay to be competitive? I mean, you got to learn the game first, and we're not looking T-ball. There's some people that say as soon as you come out of the womb, it's, let's go.
Right.
But there's also people that say until you get to varsity or until you get to, like, my take is a lot of the 7th, 8th grade stuff, when you're allowed to play football. What's your take from two coaches who have a lot of wins under their belt? When does it really start mattering for you?
Well, I think it has to matter all the time, but in regards to
like everybody
playing
plays
versus playing versus learning.
Yeah.
We've started. I mean, it's snowballed. It's out of control. I mean, you got third graders being now evaluated and graded and ranked in the country and all of that. But I think over the last 10 years or so, maybe a little longer, we've come to, like in basketball, these 4th, 5th, 6th grade tournaments, and we talked about this on one of the shows. Like, they're playing 50 games.
Right.
And then they enter middle school and they're playing 15 games a year.
Yeah.
Versus they're playing more games in elementary, then they're playing combined up until, their varsity year. And I think that's out of control. I think they need to take some more time and do training.
Yeah.
They need to learn the game better. You still need to throw them a bone, though, because kids want to compete.
And they like to play.
So you still need to throw them a bone and play a little bit. But I just think we're out of control in regards to that.
I think seventh grade, it's all.
Oh, it's fair play.
All bets are off.
Yeah.
You're not guaranteed a minute in seventh grade. That's the way I look at it. Now, do you want to play Of course you want to play everybody.
There are some schools, some leagues that have, everybody has to play.
Yeah.
First, third quarter, next group, second, fourth, or scoring. If you're up by 20, you're not allowed to press. Things, I don't know. I mean, it just makes the game too complicated. I think. Well, let me say this: Zach didn't play baseball.
Yeah.
He played basketball. So if there's a seventh grade baseball team, should there be a mandatory playing rule? Here's a kid who's never played baseball. He comes on and your son's played his whole life and is really good. Should he have to sit so Zach gets to play? On the flip side of that, Zach was committed to basketball. Should Zach have to sit in a basketball game so that your son gets to play and he's never played basketball?
Right.
So in seventh grade, I think it's fair game to do whatever.
Especially when you see some programs, they're saying you can't cut.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
They got
cut.
22 kids.
You got 22 kids on the bench and you're going to play them all? There's no way. And the other thing for us too was, as bad as this sounds, we're trying to narrow the field sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
We need 7 or 8 kids by the time they're varsity basketball players. We don't need 30 kids to play. Football might be different. Some other sports might be different. But we need 2 or 3 from each group to play.
Do you think being elite like that, being part of 8 guys, makes it more enticing because you feel like you've accomplished something?
I think the more you win it's harder to get the kids out. You would think just the opposite, everybody would buy in. No, because so many kids want to play varsity as freshmen this year.
Right.
I mean, that didn't happen.
It's a different mentality.
35
There's no
years
stages
ago.
anymore.
Right, so 35 years ago, if you were a freshman, you played freshman. If you were a sophomore, you played JV, and then as a junior, you played varsity, and a senior, you played varsity, or whatever. If you were good.
Yeah.
If you were good. Now, kids are coming up to us saying, if I'm not playing varsity as a freshman, I'm not playing.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're returning 4 starters from a 20-win team. You have no chance. And I think that's why our success, you would see some of these teams that lose every year. They got 30 kids out there warming up for JV and varsity because.
And if I only need 3 of you, those extra 15 kids are killing our practices.
Killing.
They're not getting the reps.
We've had some kids throughout the years who had no business being on our team. We kept them because our numbers were bad. And, the biggest fear is that the kid doesn't get out of the way of a drill and he hurts one of our starters on varsity.
Yeah.
And that's happened. I mean, my first year at Champion, we did a layup drill. This is tryouts. First thing we do a layup drill. We have a great player, Nathan Kish, the current coach out of Champion. This kid doesn't get out of the way. Nathan hits him, kind of falls. He's cut. He's gone. like if Nathan goes down, our season goes down.
Yeah.
It's that vital.
Yeah.
You can't put kids out there that can't physically at least compete. They may not be dribble or shoot, but physically run up and down. Otherwise, someone's going to get hurt.
It's interesting. I just got a text message. There's a couple states now looking to incorporate, and this goes back to COVID, sorry. Goes back to they're just going to play teams in their county.
They just did that up in Pymatuming Valley.
Does this worry you?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, this could get out of. You talk about scoreboard watching. There's some teams in Columbiana County, Mahoning, Trumbull, our entire watching and viewing area that it could get ugly really quick.
We talked about hockey.
Yeah.
There's a elite team in Cleveland. It's called Team Ohio.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine, his son's a year older than my son, so he couldn't even be on that team anyway. But he talked about their schedule. They play 60 games. They're talking about not leaving Ohio. How many teams at an elite level, you're going to play a team 4 or 5 times? What's the good in that? I mean, what's the good in that? So either you're killing them, they're killing you, or the kids are going to hate each other. That close, when they're talking about PV, they canceled they lost 7 games or 6 or 7 games.
One of them is East Palestine.
Right.
You look at it and you go, what do you do?
Yeah, what do you do?
Listen, if you're getting to the point you're doing that, you have to question, why are we playing sports?
Well, that's it.
If it's that big of a concern where kids could get sick, why are we playing at all?
I don't understand how, and this isn't a knock on Pie Valley, but this is you are 5 weeks away
right
tonight, I guess last night, if you look, 5 weeks away, and now an AD, a coach, has to go fill that spot with what?
Yeah, who
Nobody.
are you going to get?
Nobody.
Right.
Yeah, because each one of those are a different week.
So
you
you're
can't
going to play
just plug
another
them
team
together.
again? I mean, what are you going to do?
No, so now you're playing 9 games, and we all know what happens when you play 9 games. Let's say we get through this season, and you've got 9 games, and another team that has the identical, they've got 10.
Right.
So it comes down to week 10. They win the game, they get the playoff spot. You don't.
Right.
Because the OHSAs came out and said that what was supposed to happen this year with the expansion of the playoffs is now happening next year.
Yeah.
So you're going to play all this,
Yeah.
and what, 8 teams
Right.
now are completely zonked
Right.
because what are they going to do? Like, you can't replace that week 2, week 4. Like,
Yeah.
there's nobody left.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely think that's a concern for sports across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like what we talked about earlier about there's no nobody at the top making a decision for
Sure.
everybody. So this individual person can make a call for that, and then it ruins how many programs or how many seasons.
But that was the lockstep too.
Yeah.
You know, you shouldn't have one team doing this that kills 8 seasons.
Right.
You should have, okay, we're going to talk this over with the superintendent style and make sure that this is acceptable because, let's be honest, those weren't all just home games.
Right.
That's away game. That's revenue that is lost from those games as well. Right. Even if it is 50% or 35%, you're lost. I think that model could get us into trouble.
For sure.
It could get kids into trouble because it is about winning. Now, we went through, we're still doing, we got games tonight at Scene Park, and when we went through it said, hey, this is about the kids, this is about playing baseball. It's fantastic. That lasted about a third of an inning. Once they cross those lines, game on.
Yeah.
Well, DJ, several episodes ago, we talked about that in regards to elementary tournaments, basketball tournaments. You know, I had a guy tell me one time, a director, like, we're doing this to benefit the kids. You know, you're doing it to raise money. Like, we're not fools here.
Yeah.
And if you are doing it to benefit the kids, then don't charge the parents to come in.
Bingo.
Don't charge the team. It's insane. I mean, when you a 4th grader, you go out there and they say it's about learning. You throw the jump ball. Well, I don't even know if they have jump balls in 4th grade, but bounce the ball and see the parent in the stands screaming about winning. And I get it.
Everybody wants to win.
Everybody wants to win.
I wanted my kids to win then.
Right,
too.
in 4th grade, we wanted to win.
Yep.
In 4th grade, even when we were growing up, we were competitive. We played baseball, travel, whatever, and we were competitive. But it's out of control.
Well, you get the T-ball and you say, oh, we're not keeping score. But then why do you have a scorebook in your hand?
Right.
We coached 1 year of soccer. Zach and Parker were on the same team. They didn't keep score. We knew our record. We knew the score. We
leaders.
We said this was we knew how many goals.
I
Zach
terrorized the
scored.
ref or whatever they're called.
We knew all of it, and the kids knew all of it without us even telling them. They knew who was the
who
best
won,
team
who lost, who the best players were.
The best story that came out of that, we had this one kid. He couldn't play at all. He was terrible.
I thought you were gonna say the one official who couldn't officiate at all.
No, that too.
Oh.
But he couldn't play. And we had no idea how to play soccer or coach soccer, but we gave it to Zach most of the time, and Parker was goalie and moved around. So we moved our kids around where we thought they'd have success. This one kid couldn't play. We told him every time the ball goes near you, just punt it right into the woods, because then we could set up our kids. We could reset our kids. This kid would throw the ball. I mean, he'd kick it 40 feet into the woods every time. And it was great.
Everybody hated us.
Hated us. It was the worst.
The director threatened to kick us out.
It was the worst. We were the worst coaches for the development of a 6-year-old in soccer.
The director or somebody high up in the program, he had a team, and we just beat him. And like he would tell us how good his team is and how he did all this shit, whatever, and then we beat him. And he just wanted to kick us out after.
That's why we're bad. Like, that's winning. We want to win.
Yeah, we want to win.
We put our kids in a position.
Not
to
gonna
win,
lie.
So what was that, 6U you said?
6.
Oh,
yeah, forget everything I said. Everybody should want to win.
I was just going to say, wait a minute here.
They're 6, but they 6. 6. Here's the funny shit that goes on. So Brian, like, we'll go to shootouts in the summer, and as soon as I walk in, they'll hand you like rules or whatever. I give them right to Brian. I go read this. No rules, whatever it is. So soccer starts. I give him the rules. So this kid, this 12-year-old official.
He was legit 12 or 13 years old.
He's horrible, but he's 12 or 13 years old. Well, he gives the other team these penalty kicks. Like, he's like, penalty kick. I'm screaming at him because he's telling me there's no penalty. I'm like, Brian, you told me there's no penalty kicks. He's going to be, and the kid's like swearing, and Brian's like, there's no penalty kicks. So I'm screaming at the kid, there's no penalty kicks. Back and forth. And we pulled the rules out. Yeah. There's no penalty kicks. And we're like, kid, you got to know the rules. And they didn't want to hear that.
12-year-old.
Yeah, they
didn't want to hear that. Capri Sun in his.
They actually had board members come down to our games.
Oh, my gosh.
That's not good.
Oh, my God.
So you're talking about regrets that might be one.
We're going to write that one. And
that kid's probably, he's probably 25, 28. Now, sorry, kid.
Yeah.
We were at Mount Union basketball camp. We had a really good team.
Okay.
We're in the Final Four. I gave them the rules.
Yeah.
So this is years ago, and we're playing Painesville, who has a stud player, and we're beating them. And it's down to the last minute, and we're up. Down to the last 10 seconds, we're up. They call a timeout. It's the second timeout they've called. You're only allowed one per game.
That was their rules for this.
So that was their rules,
yeah.
not my rules. So that's in technical foul.
Yep.
It's set on the paper. Game's over because we're up 2 points. It was somehow, I can't remember. We would have shot. There was like 2 seconds left. We would have shot free throws. We'd get the ball. Game's over. Okay. They don't give him a technical foul. I'm screaming at him and he's like, he's throwing balls. We get this ball back.
Because the rules are in the bottom of the bag, and I'm trying to find it. So literally, with 2 seconds ago, I'm launching balls.
Balls are flying all over the gym. He pulls out the rules. He's reading through as I'm like, you can't do there's no second
You're
time
buying
out.
time, yeah.
Yeah, and he's screaming. I find it. There's one time out. So then I'm like saying to the officials, this is a no-brainer. With some of their players, Mount Union players, I'm like, second time out. Game's over, and they're like, well.
They're like, it's summer.
It's summer.
Don't worry about it.
whoa,
let the kids shoot.
The rules.
What do you mean? So the Mount Union coach comes out. It was not Mike. It was Lee Hood. He comes out, and he's like, come on, Jeff. It's summer. Whoa, Lee. I would have called a timeout earlier then because we were up and they made a run. I'm like, this is bullshit. Mm-hmm. This is bullshit.
We wanted to win.
We want to win. So they don't give them a technical. It goes into overtime. And they tied up the score in regulation. They don't give them a technical. It goes into overtime. And the rule was something like whoever wins the jump ball.
No, it was like first bucket.
Was it first bucket?
They win the jump ball and they put
all
it
right,
in.
that's it. And they had to stop. We couldn't stop them.
Yeah.
So I'm pissed. And, I'm straight out. And I see Lee Hood and I'm giving him the business, whatever. And Brian's like, let's just go. This is, and I'm pissed. Go home. About 6 months later at Christmas time, I get a card from Lee Hood, apologizing. But I get it.
Sent you a Christmas card?
It's something. It was right before Christmas. I think it was a Christmas card or something. And I get it. In that big picture, we had moved on. But at that moment, we're not just playing to win the Mount Union shootout. We're playing so our guys understand they can win, so they're ready for the season. Follow the rules.
You have to, and this is another tough thing. You have to learn how to win.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
We
That's
believe
a mentality.
that. We absolutely believe that, and we believe that in 7th grade even.
Absolutely.
You learn how to win, and you beat Louisville in 7th grade.
You think you can beat them the rest of your
right?
Yep.
And they think they're going to lose.
Because you'll point back at that and be like, these are the same guys you played in 7th grade. There's nothing different. Go beat them. I'm all on board. All right, 2 tough. I think they're tough questions for each of you. I guess you can answer the same ones, but you've coached together. So here's the loss that keeps you up at night that you had over the last 20 years.
Newton Falls District Championship. We had that on our show. We had a big lead. 4 minutes left to go in the game. Maybe I blew it. I don't know. We lost.
Yeah, we fell apart and we lost it.
Fell
and
apart.
It literally drove our coaching philosophy for the next 15
Newton
years.
Falls had tough kids, and we said, they never quit. And Roy Sembach does a great job with those kids. He's been there for 30 years. And we went to McDonald's and forget about X's and O's and not talent. I mean, you need talent, but number one, we want tough kids.
All right, so completely forgot about that being on your show. So let's take a twist. Toughest loss you've ever had that wasn't in a championship game that keeps you up at night?
Rootstown?
Yeah, our first year at champion, we're like 5th in the state, 6th in the state. We go to Rootstown, they stink. We go there, we jump out. We're up by 15 points early, 12 points early, and our kids just kind of settled in. They come back. I think they were 4-16 that year, and they beat us.
And they even at the beginning, their announcer came up to us and said, "Can we announce you as the 6th ranked team in the state?" We're like, we
didn't care.
We're chesty, we're ready.
The first year as our coach, that was our first year as head coach.
It humbled us in a hurry.
Yeah, it did, and the only thing I didn't like about that loss is by the time they were done, they were flipping us off and stuff like that. It was totally unnecessary. But give them credit. They had a kid who, I don't know if he was good or not, but he was good that night.
All right, last question before we end the show. What is the biggest misconception of each other's personality, coaching style, whatever, that you've heard in the press or whatever?
What's funny is actually I just talked to somebody from McDonald, and she said she was watching the show with her husband, and her husband's laughing, and you're like, and you're watching full court press. And they're like, Jeff isn't as big as an asshole as I thought he was. You know what I mean? So I think when you sit down with him a little bit, you don't see that persona that's on the sidelines. I think for Jeff, once you get to know him, he's a pretty good guy. So.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
What's
I mean,
Brian?
he's an asshole too. I mean, I'm not saying he's not always I mean, he's an asshole sometimes too. But
I am.
But I mean, once you see him talking to a kid about wrestling figures, that puts it in a whole different perspective.
that was awesome.
Yeah,
that was awesome. Jeff, what's the biggest misconception
I don't
about
know.
Brian?
A misconception?
Good guy.
Yeah, that's the misconception, that he is a good guy. I don't know, you know, just in general, like, I'm the more serious one, Brian's the more joking one. You know, you see it on the show.
Yeah.
Like my funny is my blunt truth. Yeah. His funny is the little
jabs.
Little jabs.
You're the haymaker, he's the jab guy.
Yeah. Misconception?
I don't know.
I think
everybody thinks he's a good guy.
I thought he was quiet.
Quiet?
Yeah,
No.
I thought the first couple times I met him, absolutely just a mouse.
I don't know. Yeah, but people who know him know he's not quiet.
But you've come out like you're like the first show you came out.
It was like the microphone was a cape.
Yeah, I was like, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
Where was he? I just think it's interesting because you and I crossed paths, but we never knew each other until you came here. So obviously, there's no McDonald on the wall until you come here, and then you look at it, you go, okay, who is this guy? I give everybody a shot. And I heard all of the, okay, you got to be careful around him because he'll let you have it. Dude, you've been awesome. Like, you're a straight shooter.
I think the misconception in general about us is everybody thinks we're complete idiots. Like, maniacs, mean, you know, and most people who meet us are like, you guys are the nicest, best looking people,
true.
most intelligent.
Modest.
Yep.
Yeah, that I've ever met.
I think you should probably end the show.
I am excited for Nick. Guys, thank you so much for coming in today.
For having us.
Awesome. 3 hours of just awesome truths right here filling in for Ronnie. Your guys' show next Friday, 4 o'clock, right here on the network. We're excited for that, as we always are. We're excited for your social media because that's what's fire.
Yeah.
We had the East Palestine Fire Department here on call all afternoon, so we thank them. But guys, thank you so much for making the trip down. Awesome show, and we look forward to hearing from you in about a week.
Thanks. DJ.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
That's going to do it for Running Point. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in on Monday from 12 to 3 right here on YSN. Anthony Hartwig will be back, and we will talk about sports, and we're going to be talking about baseball, so we will see what goes on this weekend. Hope you have a safe weekend and make it yours. It is going to be the Power Hour coming up next. I host that one too, so hopefully I got something to talk about. We'll see you in just a little bit. So long, everybody.
Hey, my Ohio friends, it's Mike Ditka, and I know great talent and heart when I see it. I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are average real estate agents, then there are true champions. Kelly Warren is one of those champions, and you have it right there in your own backyard. Kelly outmarkets and outsells every agent in the Mahoning Valley. If Kelly can't sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to, Kelly will buy it. Get your home sold. Call Kelly Warren today at 717-2689 or go online to kellysold.com and start packing.
You can feel it. Baird Brothers' traditional craftsmanship. You can see it. Baird Brothers' timeless style. And you can afford it. And find everything at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is real hardwood, yet beautifully affordable. Floors, moldings, interior doors, bar rails, and stair parts. All within your means and without a care. Start at BairdBrothers.com. You have made it.